Oh, you know what I love?
Sports.
Love sports.
Sports. When
It comes to Texas A&M.
Where are you getting this information?
Let me tell you.
Welcome to TexAgs.
I need to talk a little sports with you, Ags. David Nuño here with TexAgs Radio. Billy Liucci here on TexAgs Radio. Olin Buchanan.
We will develop men, we will graduate players, and we will win championships on the field.
The best way for us to win is to do it together.
Do you realize everybody knows who you are right now?
I think we're coming into this year with a new confidence.
Schools are like, we're freaking Texas A&M, man. Like,
that's about as pretty a throw-catch combo as there is.
I saw the safety roll, the slot fade. I knew where I needed to put the ball.
You had no other option but one hand at that point.
Yeah, man, 50-50 ball, I got to come down with it.
You know, if I'm betting on anybody, it's the Aggies.
I'm racking my brain here. Somebody help me out. I'm having a hard time understanding, and maybe I just don't know how to read, what Florida State did wrong. I in no way care about Florida State, but the NCAA is about to drop a punishment on them for NIL violations. And maybe I just need to read deeper, but this is what I'm reading. Their offensive coordinator drove an athlete to a meeting with a booster where their supporter proposed an NIL opportunity with Rising Spear NIL worth $15,000 per month. The deal would have been contingent on his enrollment at Florida State. Are we acting like NIL is not part of recruiting? I mean, it's not supposed to be, but it is exactly that. So let's get into it. This is TexAgs Coffee Talk, presented by TexAgs Coffee. Beat that hell out of the morning by going to texags.com/coffee. It's TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. He's Olin Buchanan. He's our Heisman Trophy voter. I'm David Nuño. Hello. OB, I don't care. Like, I'm having a hard time understanding the problem here. I mean, unless everybody's going to get in trouble, I don't understand the problem.
Right. Well, yeah, I don't either, to be honest. So they're upset because the offensive coordinator
drove a guy to a meeting. That I'm sure they helped set up, but you know. And NIL by the original rule identity, there was never a rule, guideline, whatever, was supposed to be, it gives the player the freedom to work out a deal, and then but the university itself is not supposed to be part of it. But we all know the university.
But everybody does it
because they do these like little pseudo side deals with company. Look,
it's for all I can tell, it's the NCAA trying to show, hey, we're still in charge here.
But why Florida State and not other schools?
Because maybe there is some kind of actual documentation. Maybe they were just a little too overt. I don't know. I don't know. I'm trying to guess.
Yeah.
Because you can look anywhere. Like when Texas was doing the pancake company to get the pancake factory, I guess, to get offensive linemen. You don't think that their coaches knew about this and maybe, hey, you know what? We need some offensive linemen. Why don't y'all do this, right? But if you actually had the coach take him, I mean, to me, that's like the nittiest of nitpicking.
I'm going to read this from Matt Tackle because this is exactly the truth here on the YouTube page. But I still don't think it makes sense. 2 rules broken. Coach driving the player to a meeting being one. Okay, I don't think that's...
Oh, yeah, it's terrible.
Okay, God. Driving Miss Daisy, it works, okay? The other being that the NIL deal was tied to enrollment at FSU. Aren't they all? Like,
yeah,
if you,
absolutely.
They are. I mean, I know we act like they're not, but they are.
Of course they are. That's why the NIL deal, for the most part, every school has a collective.
Yeah.
When we were at Ole Miss, right? You go into the bathroom at the urinal. They have a big sign that tells you if you want, as an Ole Miss fan, here's how you can contribute to the collective. Yeah. That's because NIL is a big deal. Everybody acknowledges it. Of course, your NIL deal is tied to you going to. Did Quinn Ewers still get the car and everything up at Ohio State when he moved to? When he moved to Austin, I don't think he did. Right?
Oh, well, I think he got the Lamborghini.
I said when he was at Ohio State, he had a deal with the car and all this, and $1 million. Did they continue to pay him when he went to Texas?
I would assume.
Did that not. No. This again, saber rattling by the NCAA. It's a toothless organization trying to show some teeth.
Now, I agree with Nick Saban yesterday. I didn't read or see the entire interview, but I did see where he's like, he'd like to see the same rules for everybody. I don't know if I want the same rules for everybody because I think Texas A&M, Oregon, and schools with money should be able to flex a little bit of their. But I do think the rules, and it should be clear cut. Like, this is okay, this is not. And there should be penalties for everybody who goes outside the lines. That I'm okay with.
Well,
but everybody.
And here's one thing we got to acknowledge, right? Coaching, especially in college sports, it's as unethical. Coaches are unethical people by nature in college sports.
Yep.
Like college football and especially men's basketball. You can't deny it. So if they do set up these rules, people are just going to cheat like they always have to go outside of them. Well, the idea is supposed to be, hey, a player, if the sleep station wants somebody I want to pay them NIL deal, that I get in touch with their representative. And
yep.
But you have the collectives. Every college, every big-time program has a collective.
So Sandman points out, Coach Atkins, the FSU offensive coordinator, was Ubering a recruit during a dead period. So that part I get.
Okay, but is it, again, how big is that the infraction that's just all the things that have gone on? I remember Oklahoma when I'm going back to 2006 when it was found that their quarterback was getting paid for money, and they lost 2 scholarships. 2. That's all right. It was. So now this is the big deal.
It's just weird to me, and it makes me wonder, like, has A&M done anything like this? Probably. I mean, not this specific thing. Has Texas, has Oklahoma, has Alabama? Yeah, I think everybody has done some form of NIL with no guardrails to now, I do know that you're not allowed to use NIL as a way of recruiting, right? But they're all doing it.
You're not allowed to use NIL as a way of recruiting. And
this is what you could potentially get if you came to A&M, right. But we're not saying you're going to get it. If you come to TexAgs, we're going to give you this. Every 6 months, your show reaches X amount of views. Actually, that's way different.
It just seems to me that it's an organization. Here's my question: if this was Alabama, Georgia, somebody that didn't just complain like crazy about the playoff, and if it was Ohio State, would this be? Would it even be an issue?
I don't know. That's the part I mean, that's what Marie and Brian on the text line says. This seems rather simple to me. They're going after Florida State because of crying about their playoff. And honestly, Florida State has been very whiny this year in many regards.
They had a reason. They had a right to complain.
No, but also with the ACC and, that.
They have a right to complain there, too.
They do, but they've been more. People don't want whininess, I guess. Keep it quiet.
It depends on who whines.
True. There's a certain retired coach.
Yeah, well, he whined everybody.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah.
You get to do it.
Where's your ring? Let me kiss it.
Look, how does this affect Texas A&M? I don't know. I'm very black and white. What are the rules? What is allowed? This is not allowed? Won't do it.
Yeah. But
it's allowed sometimes.
This is the rule that you're going to, that you're going to stake you're going to put the flag down. You're going to draw the line at this rule.
No, you Ubered. You can't. Now, I understand the dead period part. I do get that. I understand that.
Yeah. But if the kid was already committed, I know you're not supposed to have any contact with him, so I'll get that. But if the kid's already committed, are you still recruiting him? I mean, hey, yeah.
Technically,
yeah,
yes.
technically. But again, I just find this to be silly.
That part I get. I just don't know how big of a violation that is, but I get it.
Look, like I said earlier, I'm still stuck in the past from almost 20 years ago when Rhett Bomar and they had somebody named Quinn, I think it was his last name, offensive lineman. They were getting paid directly from Big Red Imports.
Right.
Without even going to work. But they were getting paid. Before you were able to, you never were supposed to do that. And it was discovered. And the NCAA, because it was Oklahoma, I assume, they gave them, I believe it was 2 scholarships they forfeited. 2. And now we fast forward all these years, and here's Florida State after they'd complained a lot. And we're in NIL, and everybody's complaining about how there's no rules.
Right.
And so they broke a rule. But how egregious is this? And I'm not a fan of Florida State. I'm just looking at it and think, with everything that's going on in college football and how wide open everything is, again, this is the line you're going to draw that's such a big deal. I just don't get it.
I don't get it either. All right, now it's time to run our mouths. 3 things we want to see, brought to you by the Brazos Running Company, your local Aggie-owned specialty running store, where you can find Brooks on Hoka shoes out there, located at Century Square below the Star Cinema Grill in College Station. OB, do you have 3 things you want to see this weekend?
Well, I want to see the Cowboys win.
Yeah.
Right. I hate the Packers. They've been a thorn in my side, so I want to see them win. I want to see the Aggies win. I'm talking about the basketball game tomorrow afternoon. I want to see it. How am I going to see it? I want to see it. I want to see them make I either want to see them make more 3-pointers or take fewer 3-pointers.
How about make more with fewer shots?
That would be wonderful.
That would be great, right?
Of course, making more right now, the bar's pretty low. Weren't they like 3 of 19 in the last game?
It was ridiculous. So go 4 or 5, and then I'm happy. Less shots, less opportunities for transition points on the other end.
But they would contend and says, well, if we're leading the country in offensive rebounds, so if we take fewer shots, we'll get fewer offensive rebounds, which means we'll get fewer. But if you make more shots, you also get fewer offensive.
How about let's lead the country in defensive rebounds? Let's refocus that energy.
Let's figure out something.
Yeah. Here are the 3 things I want to see.
Okay.
I don't want to see a moral victory. I don't care.
There are no moral victories.
Right? I don't care if you play hard. I mean, I do.
You're supposed to play hard.
Yeah, I expect that. All right? Hey, we play tough. Yes, play tough. I expect that from not only every Buzz Williams teams, because his teams do play exceptionally hard no matter what.
They do.
Right? Just like I expect a passing team to pass the ball. Right? I expect the Kansas City Chiefs to try to throw it. I expect the Miami Dolphins to try to throw it this weekend, right? To get it to their playmakers. That's what they do.
Well, unless they're handing off to Devon Achane.
I've never seen a coach with an aerial attack. I was just happy we kept on throwing. Just, hey, we kept on throwing. So I want to see, yes, I expect that, but I want to see them more specifically attack the rim.
Well, that's been what has been what had helped them win, or what was the main factor in them winning and turning their seasons around the last 2 seasons.
Yep.
I don't know if they can do it again this year, but that's been the difference. I think they tried to do it more against Auburn.
Yeah, but that's what I want to see. I want to see, and along with that, maybe try to find different ways to get Wade Taylor the ball. Different. Hard, I get it, but when they're double teaming him early on, let's run some plays where he cut through the paint, wraps around, a little Steph Curry style, right? Get him moving without the ball to get him the ball.
I think we need to see a 4th option emerge to be a consistent scorer.
Yep.
And I think they're really missing, and surprisingly to me, Dexter Dennis.
Absolutely.
Because as great a defensive player he was, he would go out there and score 15 points for you every so often.
He would.
You're just not getting that.
The other thing I want to see, there are 2 more I got to go. a name that ends up at Alabama that kind of shakes up the college football world. No matter who they get, more specifically, maybe shakes up the SEC. Kalen DeBoer, who I think is awesome. I do like Kalen DeBoer, but he's not Nick Saban. So no matter what, it can't be as good as the way I look at it. You can't go from a legend. Like, it's going to be a drop-off. No, but I would like it to shake up the SEC. I want ripple effects.
I hope Kalen DeBoer turns them down.
I do
But
too.
if he does take the job, I hope that he will be as successful as the last coach from the state of Washington that Alabama hired.
Who was that?
Mike Price from Washington.
Oh,
State.
Mike Price, that's right.
Who never actually coached a game.
He lasted
there.
a day?
More than a day,
Okay.
a few weeks, and then they went down to a recruiting deal. And
Wasn't there a coach who lasted one day, though, around the same time as Mike Price? I feel like there was two stories like that.
I don't remember one day. I just remember him going into the to the gentleman's club, and it didn't end well for him.
Wasn't there a coach who lied on his resume?
George O'Leary going
yes.
from Georgia Tech to Notre Dame, said he had all these degrees, and turns out he didn't even have the BA from
That's what it was.
someplace.
All right, so attacking the rim, a name that ends up at Bama that potentially shakes up the SEC. And there's a rumor out, not even a rumor, it's somebody's opinion that I will bring up later on in the show just so we can have some fun. And then I am not a Cowboys fan. I used to dislike the Cowboys. As an Oilers fan, I disliked them.
Right.
Okay?
Right.
I kind of like the Cowboys now. They're not my team. I don't celebrate their victories. I kind of like them, though. I like Dak. I kind of like some of their players, right? Like, obviously, there's the Aggie connections there. But I want to see the Cowboys win. And I also want to see, guess who? The Texans win.
Oh, of course. I understand that. You've been
I want a
Houston
Texas
guy.
weekend. Texas Pro Football weekend.
Yeah, see, I'm not a Houston Texans fan, but
You like CJ?
I like him. I like Ryans. I kind of root for them like this. Hey, I hope they're winning. Yeah,
I hope they're winning.
I want to like
a puppy,
like a little boy. I want to muss his hair. Good job, son.
Are you calling them little brother? Is that what you're doing?
I never use the word brother.
Okay.
But like say Houston fans hate Dallas because Dallas for years was successful and Houston wasn't. Never has been.
That's interesting you say that. I mean, congratulations to the Rangers.
I'm talking about football on that scale.
Okay, let me ask you a serious question. I don't have the numbers in front of me. Who's been more successful since 2002, the Cowboys or the Texans?
I would say probably the Cowboys.
I think it's the Texans.
I don't know.
I'm pretty sure it's the Texans.
I really
the Texans have had way lower years in that stretch.
I don't ever remember the Cowboys blowing like a 35-point lead in the playoffs.
That's the Oilers.
Or a 24-point lead.
24-point lead is the Texans.
Yeah, I'm sorry. You got to.
Yeah, I do remember a extra point with Tony Romo, and how long of a stretch of not winning a playoff game?
Oh, it's been a long time.
How long?
Well, a playoff game? It's been a year.
No. But they went was it like a 17-year period where they didn't win a playoff game?
Something like that. Yeah. I think the Houston team probably went 17 years without getting in the playoffs.
Who's had the better player in the last 20 years? Who's been the best player of the Cowboys the last 20 years?
Gosh, there's been so many.
Better than J.J. Watt in the last 20 years?
Oh, probably not.
Okay.
One player.
I had to have a counter. I got J.J., who saves babies from burning buildings daily. He just did it again.
I like J.J. Watt. I'm a fan of J. In fact, one of the darkest days of a Cowboys fan, and I think I got this right, was the Cowboys drafted Taco freaking Charlton. Cowboys never draft a Michigan defensive lineman again in your life, but they drafted Taco Charlton when I believe, if my memory serves, T.J. Watt was still available.
Mm-hmm.
That's how much that drove me crazy.
Olin, that's your second concussion. Just kidding.
My head's too hard to get a concussion.
All right, let's do this. I've got to check in with the peoples, right? We got Nick Saban to check in with in a moment. We've got Matthew Dawson there at the Social Center, but we probably need to hit a break. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you can do that at 979-693-1150. We'll pick it up on the Brian Foley Law Hotline, or you can text that number as well. As I mentioned, this is the Go Hour presented by The Warehouse at CC Creations. I got nothing funny or anything clever to start Fargo's with. So why don't we just start it? Well, if they did, I got it. A Mount Rushmore of football players from the Cowboys and the Texans to have a meeting about greatness.
Yeah.
Over the last 20 years. We can't, because Cowboys have way more all time. Last 20 years. Who's going to be at this Fargo's meeting? We're going to have J.J. Watt, Andre Johnson, Gary Kubiak from the Texans. I don't know who else. Owen Daniels, my friend.
Clowney?
No, he doesn't.
No, he
doesn't.
Again,
Brian Cushing.
The steroid.
I don't want to bring that up right now. But from the Cowboys, who are we bringing? Dak.
You talk about 20 years. I can't even remember. I have to go back.
Zeke.
Zach Martin, Tyron Smith,
Jason Witten,
Micah Parsons,
Jason
Witten for sure.
All right.
So anyway,
they're all there,
and they're all there. On what day is this?
Let's just pretend it's today, Friday.
Friday. Well, they're all there saying, "Hey, we're going to have this
meeting of the minds."
This meeting of the minds. Well, let's have it with the 5 C's.
Mm-hmm.
You get your catfish, your coleslaw, your corn, your crunchy hush puppies, and the Cowboys. You can get the 5 C's right there on a Friday at.
You know who's at the
Fargo's
door trying to get in the Fargo's? We haven't let him in yet.
Who's that?
Tony Romo. We didn't invite him. What are we doing? Invite Tony Romo.
Maybe he should have held on to that snap.
Fine. Quincy Carter it is. All right, it is Fargo's.
Was Quincy Carter in the last 20 years?
Yeah. I think he was 2003?
Maybe. Anyway.
Matthew,
but you know what? You go to Fargo's, it doesn't. Everybody wins when you go to Fargo's.
Everybody
Even
wins.
the Texans.
1701 South Texas Avenue in Bryan. Without a doubt, the what?
Well, the best barbecue in Texas, which makes it the best barbecue in the world.
You know that's their trademark.
Well, it's true.
It's Fargo's. couple names I forgot to invite to the Fargo's meeting with the meeting of the minds.
Yeah.
Arian Foster's got to be there.
Okay.
Arian Foster was fantastic for about a 3-year
Yeah,
stretch. He was great. People are recommending Brock Osweiler go as well.
You know what? Brock Osweiler would be a winner.
He's tall.
He's 6'8". He'd be a winner at Fargo.
One guy who gets poo-pooed on, excuse me for the term,
okay,
Matt Schaub. Matt Schaub had a great run until the end, and then he was horrible.
You know why I would like Matt Schaub to be there? Because, hey, he would probably get those rib tips and try to be giving it to some of his teammates, and I'd just be able to come in and take them away.
Did
he set an NFL record for pick sixes thrown?
He did. Hey, TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio, Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. I got a story about that. I may have told you this before, but on radio we repeat stories sometimes. 2000, what is that? 13, I believe. They were expected. They had the year prior, they had won, I believe, 12 games or 11 games. They went into the playoffs. They lost. It was the year of the Letterman jacket. You remember when the Texans did the whole Letterman jacket thing?
No, because I don't pay that close attention to them.
They went into, I think it was a Monday night game with like Letterman jacket, like high school, and they got destroyed, okay? So everything since then went down south. Anywho, all right, they start off that season. Game one, they beat the Chargers, but Matt Schaub came very close to a pick six. They tackled the dude on the 1-yard line, okay? The next game, pick six. Next game, pick six. Next game, pick six. Against the Seattle Seahawks. The Texans actually might win this game. Last drive of the game, I believe they're up. I don't know. They're up. All they got to do is run the ball. All they got to do is run the ball. Matt Schaub.
Pick six.
Bootlegs out. Tries to find Andre Johnson. Pick six. They lose the game. Okay? And I got a text from our news director that day. You've heard the story before, I'm sure.
If I have, I've forgotten it.
And they say you have to ask every player if Matt Schaub has lost the locker room. Okay?
Oh, that's fun.
I already know no one's going to answer that question, especially after it, but I know I got to do it. My first interview was Arian Foster. This is not like a great story. It's just providing some clarity or some context. Arian Foster and I had a great relationship. In fact, he treated me better than any media member in Houston. Like, he was pretty tough.
Okay.
I would not say he was a friend, but like a media friend, right?
Right.
In fact, like when he retired, I was the first call to do his story on retirement, right?
Okay.
He was great. So I'm thinking, all right, I know Arian's not going to want this question, but he at least likes me, and I'll be able to pull it off. Arian has Matt Schaub lost the locker room. Man, and he says a couple other words that I can't repeat on radio. You're going to really ask me that after a loss? He was upset with me for a little while after that. But that's what we have to do in this business, unfortunately.
Yes. There's so many things that we have to do or that is done by an editor or somebody or director that would never ask those questions themselves.
Right.
But hey, I'm safe in the office, so I want you to do this.
But it was a worthy question, right?
But Arian's right. Not right after the loss.
Tuesday when we have the media. Yes. Hey, you've had some time to digest.
And I might think of a way to
phrase it differently.
Yes.
Can Matt Schaub win you back? I don't know. This is not a Texans radio, so I apologize about that. Let's go around the room and say hello to the people out there. We go behind the glass and say hi to our director, Nick Saban.
Texans fan, by the way.
Is he?
Yeah. Casual, but yeah. Well, I'm going to turn it back into Texans Cowboys radio.
Gosh.
I went and did a little digging for y'all because you were having that debate. Which team has had the better success the past 20 years? Texans, 9 winning seasons, 7 playoff appearances. Cowboys, 13 winning seasons, 10 playoff appearances, but neither team has made it past the divisional round in the playoffs. So Cowboys more playoff appearances, but really have they, you get what I'm saying.
Look, here's the biggest difference between the two. I think you're not a huge Jerry Jones fan. I love Jerry Jones.
I like Jerry Jones.
I would love for him to be my owner. It's kind of like certain people, sometimes what we love about him, we hate about him.
I like Jerry Jones because I know he wants to win. I hate Mike McCarthy because I think he's an idiot.
Right. Sometimes Jerry meddles a little too much.
Yeah, but he wants to win. Mike McCarthy's our Bill O'Brien.
Buddy.
No? You're not going to give me that one?
Mike McCarthy's not stupid enough to trade his best player.
Well, he doesn't have that
title.
He doesn't, have that freedom.
Yeah. Mike McCarthy's won a Super Bowl, as a head coach at least.
Yes.
With Aaron Rodgers.
For the freaking Packers.
Yeah, but, all right. Anywho.
Matt's a Bears fan over there, so he likes anything we say.
One more thing to add. One more thing to add to that. Both of them have 7 divisional championships. They won their division. Both have won it 7 times in the past 20 years.
I think we can agree that that probably means more for Dallas, right? Because that's a much stronger division.
No, it means more for the Texans because honestly, this with respect for the Cowboys, it's like the Lakers. It's about Super Bowls in Dallas. It's not about division championships.
But since he's bringing that up, I'm just saying that Dallas is in a traditionally stronger division than the Texans are. The NFC East.
Is the NFC East tougher than the AFC South this year?
Yeah, I would say so. Yeah.
How many teams were above 500?
Probably
I don't even know.
Eagles and Cowboys, too.
I think the Texans had 3, or the AFC South had 3.
Did they?
Mm-hmm. See what I did there? Reverse the argument.
Yeah, you're right, man. Those Texans, what a great franchise.
Hey, let me see how I can phrase this. Who would you rather be 3 years from now? The Texans or the Cowboys?
The Cowboys.
I think the Texans. C.J. Stroud. Team Stroud. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. Matthew Dawson. Hey, buddy. It's been a minute.
It has been a minute. You know what? I'm going to add something. Trey in College Station says, how can you not invite Stephen McGee to the Cowboys-Texans?
Because he played for both.
So
that's what I'm saying. He's a double duty. Like
he's the moderator.
Oh, okay.
He's helping both sides. Okay, I agree. Huh?
All right.
Arbiter. Whatever it's called.
And then another unfair stray. You guys shot a stray at Brock Osweiler. All right. That guy lives in my nightmares. He's 3-0 all time against the Bears. He does not lose to the Bears. And he also won in Miami in that terrible year that they had. And it knocked the Bears down to the 2 seed, and we had to play the Eagles, and I was there on the field for the double
See, had
point.
he been in the played for I guess it's called the NFC North now, he would have been a Hall of Famer.
Maybe.
Dollar for dollar, he is the worst, and there's been a lot of quarterbacks that are bad. The worst quarterback in Texans franchise history. For
dollar for because they paid him a crazy amount of money.
And he sucked absolute stuff.
Yeah, bad quarterback.
Except against the Bears.
Tall guy though.
Very tall.
Very tall guy. A lot taller than me.
He'd have to like duck to get into
I think
the
he's a basketball player.
He did it all.
6'8", right?
Anywho.
All right. Well, how about yesterday? We had a great win from the number 11 ranked Aggies women's swim and dive team, winning 187.5 to 106.5 against Houston. Great win. We're going to play today again against TCU in Fort Worth. So I'm excited. This Aggie swim and dive team, they're pretty good right now.
Love that. What else we got?
What else we got? We got transfer portal news. Auburn lands a large, when I say large, I mean large offensive tackle from Mississippi State, 6'8", 360 pounds. Got 437 snaps this year for Mississippi State. That's pretty good. Auburn continues to collect talent, as well as Evan Stewart transferring officially to Oregon, which I think a lot of us saw that coming.
Yep.
Really good landing spot for him, so happy for him, and I'm sure he'll make his money. I'm sure he'll make some plays.
I was reading a text that came in. Did we discuss women's basketball?
We have not discussed women's basketball. They lost yesterday, 87-70. Angel Reese scored 20 points, 18 boards against us.
Wow.
Now, Rogers, she put up 27. 14 of them came in the second half, but it just was not enough.
It's hard to beat LSU, obviously, national champions, but especially at third place.
Yep, absolutely. So people want more NFL talk. Well, we can do that, but when we come back on TexAgs Radio, I'm going to do a little NFL Alabama talk.
Okay.
My wish. My wish.
You want them to put a team in Birmingham?
No, you'll hear about it. Right now, we're talking to Send Concrete and Lifting and Support, 979-933-8527. Don't replace it, lift it. They're locally Aggie-owned and operated lifting support company, providing easy and service at half the price of replacement. They're problem solvers. So if you've got a driveway that's, kind of bumpy or it's got some areas that are raised and it's an eyesore, and you got some kids at home that run around on that driveway and they trip, or you've got older folks that are walking by. It's a real dangerous place to be. They can fix it for you at half the cost of replacement. Those of you spending $12,000, $14,000, $15,000 to replace your driveway, they can do it for a fraction of that cost. All they do is they raise it. They'll educate you on the process as well, let you know exactly what they're doing. In a couple hours, your driveway will look fantastic, seamless to the eye, and you'll be back to doing it within a few hours. Commercial, industrial, municipal, and of course residential help they'll do for you. Fraction of the cost of replacement, free estimates. Follow us and Lift on Facebook and on Instagram. Call 979-933-8527. Again, that number is 979-933-8527. It ain't going to happen, but I really hope it does. It would make my year. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour, presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. Are you familiar with Greg McElroy?
I am familiar with Greg McElroy.
We're working on trying to get him on the show soon. He says it's not going to happen, but he believes a logical choice to replace Nick Saban at Alabama is
Greg McElroy.
Bill O'Brien.
Oh, gosh.
Please. Or, I got an even better idea. Even better. Sark goes to Bama. O'Brien goes to Texas. Let's go.
I've always, even though Greg kind of rankles me sometimes because it seems like he has a love for Alabama and Texas.
Yep.
More often than not, though, and I'm saying way more often than not, I respect his opinions. I think,
I like them.
yeah, those are good opinions. But the whole Bill O'Brien thing, I don't get it.
Look, they had a really good offense at Alabama. I think the play calling.
You know what? I loved Bill O'Brien at Alabama. I loved the way that game that A&M beat them last time, the way they would get close and he'd keep throwing instead of just using that guy who now is the Robinson, who A&M was having some trouble stopping that game. I'm inside the 5-yard line. I think I'll throw. Oh, wait, there's Damani Richardson was an interception. Never mind. You know, that I was a big fan of Bill O'Brien that day.
I was a huge fan of Bill O'Brien. So Sark yesterday had I think it was yesterday, maybe it was last night, a tweet, go Texas, or Texas and the Horns thing, and people were saying, see, he's not leaving. But our message board has uncovered that's exactly what he did when he was at USC the day before he left.
Yeah, but those were different circumstances.
Way different circumstances.
I mean, he might have been under the influence when he texted that out there back at USC.
That's a low blow. Funny.
I mean, maybe he didn't mean to text that or tweet that out. But isn't that why he was leaving USC, because of those?
Yeah.
Right. So he's overcome that. I actually admire him for overcome that.
I do too.
My father.
I do too.
Struggled with that problem and overcame it. I admire him for overcoming that. So I don't admire his choice of game day attire. But in fact, sometimes I wonder if he's relapsed by the things he wears going to the stadium. But I admire that about him. I can't imagine him leaving the situation he has right now.
He's got it.
You talk about NIL and a whole bunch of people that's willing to pay whatever it takes.
But do you think folks like Sark, Kiffin, Kalen DeBoer will obviously listen because he's losing everything he's got to. Do you think that they should at least use it as leverage for a raise?
If I was, I know what comes with it, but if I was Byrne, I'd be on the phone with Lane Kiffin right now. That would be my guy. Lane Kiffin at Alabama would be scary to me.
Yeah.
If you can win 11 games at Ole Miss, what would you do at Alabama?
But I also think there's a train wreck waiting to happen.
There may be.
And I've heard a lot of things behind the scenes there. I know we got.
But if any program will do some things behind the scenes, it's Alabama.
Yeah.
In fact, I'm hoping it doesn't happen. I think that I would rather have Kalen DeBoer at Alabama than Lane Kiffin.
Okay, so
I like those Pacific Northwest coaches coming down into that grinder that is the SEC, and they go, oh, wait a minute, this is a little bit different. I'm not sure if I'm comfortable with it.
So we touched on it for a quick second yesterday, but let's kind of expand on it here. Who do we want at Alabama?
Oh, Bill O'Brien.
Who do we want that's realistic at Alabama?
What? Who would I
like? Who would be the best for Texas A&M? And I say that because,
I think Mike Norvell.
That'd be the best.
I still don't believe in him.
Okay.
I mean, I'm not saying he's a bad coach. I just don't see him. I don't think.
Is he Fran?
I don't think
potentially or something like Fran.
I don't want to go that far because the things I learned about Franchione after I came back, from former players, I'm like, oh, no wonder why they struggle. But I think Mike Norvell would be my choice for Alabama if it's up to me.
Matthew Dawson on our YouTube page at our social center there at the Angry Elephant Social Center says Mike Locksley. That's the second time he said that, and that's a name that I saw floated yesterday as well.
I think there's too much baggage with Mike Locksley. He got in trouble at New Mexico, kind of some sexual harassment things, and then he goes to Maryland, and they've been okay, but it's not like they've been great, but I don't see it.
If Auburn can hire Hugh Freeze, I think Bama could hire Mike Locksley.
Well, yeah, that's true. I mean, it is the SEC is the conference of redemption, and he's paid his penance, and there's been no trouble at Maryland, but he hasn't won as a head coach. I mean, really won. So is that what Alabama did? But see, you could look at Norvell and say, oh, look what he did at Memphis and look what was going on at Florida State. Yeah. And that's our guy. And I'm saying, yes, it is, Alabama. That is your guy.
Take him.
Take him.
Please.
But don't take Lane Kiffin.
You want him to stay at Ole Miss?
I wish he'd go to Miami.
Yeah.
I think Miami missed the boat.
I agree with you.
That was the guy that gives them they get to bring, if it's in Miami, he'd bring back that whole identity of the bad guys that Miami flourishes with that identity.
I almost feel like Lane to Bama, while it sounds like a bad thing for the SEC, might be a good thing because then Ole Miss does drop a step.
Ole Miss would drop, but, again, Alabama, Lane Kiffin, maybe their defense would suffer some. I don't know, but that offense with the players they can get and they'll buy and they'll do whatever it takes to get. And that offense and his offense, they'd be scoring 40 points every game.
Yeah.
I don't want to see Lane Kiffin in Tuscaloosa. Don't want it.
Yeah. All right, let's hit a break here. Let's go through these NFL games when we come back.
All right.
Let's go through them, and we'll give some thoughts on all of those. Right now, we're talking Heritage Films. Chance McClain's my buddy. I say that all the time because he is. He's a dear friend. And I don't like doing business with friends because I just, it can get awkward. Not with Chance. Chance is so cool. You can call him right now, like literally right now. If he'll answer, he might be on a shoot. But if he does answer, he'll talk to you about anything. Aggie football, he loves it. He'll talk about it. You want to talk about Star Wars? He'll talk about it. You want to talk about making a movie for your family? He will love to do that, right? Like he is a documentary filmmaker. He is a creative person. He does radio stations, documentaries, movie premieres. He's done it all. He made hit songs, the Yao Ming song from years ago. He made that. He is that kind of guy. And when it comes to a heritage film, you'll want it for your family because it's story time. You can tell your family's story and keep that story in the family from the person who actually lived it for generation after generation. So then your kids and their kids and their kids and their kids and their kids can all watch how the family started. It's a great thing to do. You can do it for your family business, your family ranch, you name it. You can also do the Year of Flicks, which is a 20-minute video Q&A form to really get to know and learn about your kids. Like it could be Matthew Dawson over here at the Angry Elephant Youth and Social Center, right? Like his freshman year, if we would have done one, it would have told about him getting to school. Sophomore year, he's getting closer to picking his major. He's dating this girl. He's doing this. Junior year, Aggie ring. And there you go. You've got the whole story done, right? And it's such a cool thing to do. Chance does both. The number is 713-893-8341. 713-893-8341. The website is yourheritagefilm.com. Yourheritagefilm.com. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Go Hour presented by the Warehouse at CC Creations. We got some text we got to get into, but I do want to read this. Where'd it go? I just lost it a moment ago. Are you familiar with, here it is, 93.3 KJR?
For some reason, I think I am, but I don't know why.
They're a Seattle radio station.
Yeah.
I don't expect you to really know who they are. I was just buying time. They tweet out this morning, Husky fans, we know you were looking forward to a visit with Coach Kalen DeBoer this morning.
Oh.
Please understand that Coach DeBoer and UW Athletics are continuing to work towards a future that we can all be excited about. At this time, though, Coach will not be joining us this morning, but we will reschedule our interview soon. Hashtag Purple Rain.
Huh.
So he's missing a radio appearance on the day that people are expecting him to interview with, why am I talking like that?
Yeah.
With Alabama.
No, he may be headed to Alabama. Quite frankly, if he is, it wouldn't be surprised to me if it's already been set up like months ago.
That won't have ripple effects in the SEC. That doesn't have the ripple effects I kind of wanted to see in the. I want to see chaos, carnage in the SEC, but that's not going to do it.
Yeah. But again, the culture, is he going to be able to handle? He's a good, outstanding coach. There's no doubt. Is he going to be able to handle the culture of the SEC? I mean, there's good coaches come into this conference from other parts of the country, and then they're not.
Yeah.
It eats you up.
Yeah.
And he may flourish, but there's always. That's why a lot of times you hear when they look for a job, and he has SEC experience, he understands it. Brian Harsin. I'm not saying DeBoer's not a much better coach than Brian Harsin's not a bad coach. He didn't belong in the SEC.
That's right. I don't know him enough about. I think he's an excellent coach. I love the offense that they have. His interviews, he seems like a genuine good dude.
I
right?
like it. I'd love him to be the coach at A&M.
Yeah, I wanted them to interview him. Absolutely.
I got one word for you, Alabama. Norvell.
So is Mike Norvell the lowest of the potential candidates that they can get? You think?
Not if Bill O'Brien's one of them.
It's not going to happen. He's looking for a job, right? Because with Belichick out the door, I don't.
Yeah,
Didn't they name Jared Mayo the head coach today?
Former Tennessee linebacker.
Yeah.
So anyway, but if they hired DeBoer on the surface, it looks like a grand slam.
Yeah, it does. Is that? But you think Lane Kiffin is the best?
Lane Kiffin's the one that I'd be going, holy good night. How are we going to deal with this?
Yeah. Let's go through these. By the way, Kevin Smith's going to join us here in a few minutes. Let's go through some of these games here in the NFL. We'll start off with Dolphins at Chiefs. What do you think?
It's going to be crazy cold. I'm not sure the Dolphins aren't the better team, but in that weather on the road, still Pat Mahomes.
You're used to South Florida weather, right?
Yeah, still Pat Mahomes. So I'm going to take the Chiefs.
They have not looked good.
They haven't. And the Dolphins are kind of inconsistent, but gosh, that weather. I'm going to go with the Chiefs. They've got the experience. When you've had that kind of success and that kind of quarterback and those kind of conditions, and in the playoffs, I would still lean for the Chiefs.
I'm going
the
Dolphins.
weather just adds to it. Okay.
I'm going Dolphins. I typically I would easily go Chiefs, but I think the way you're playing at the end of the season dictates how you play in the postseason. And I'm not saying the Dolphins are, but I'm going A-Chain. I'm going Dolphins.
I'm rooting for A-Chain, that's for sure.
Browns at Texans.
Hey, Tyreek Hill going back, though.
Yes, right.
Browns and Dolphins. I've got Browns and Texans. I'm taking the Browns, even though they're so inconsistent.
Mm-hmm.
But
let's not forget these two teams played a couple weeks ago.
I don't think it's out of the question that the Texans win that game.
Browns beat them a couple weeks back, I think in Houston, if I remember correctly. No C.J. Stroud on that one. They tried to make a comeback at the end. They ended up not getting there. Packers at Cowboys.
I'm going to take the Cowboys, even though the Packers have always been a thorn in my side. Their Packers defense is kind of up and down. Hopefully, it'll be one of those down days.
Steelers Bills.
I'm still taking the Bills.
Yeah, I agree. Rams Lions.
Lions
all day, baby.
Dan Campbell's. Let's go.
The Fighting Campbells.
Like them.
Eagles and Bucks. Mike Evans. I'm going Mike Evans.
You know what?
Eagles are also
I'm still
a team.
Taking, yeah, they are. They're struggling, but I'm still going to take them.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Don't buy the Baker Mayfield reclamation project.
I'm going to be rooting like hell for the Bucks, though.
Yeah. Mike Evans, 2 touchdowns, 144 yards.
Yeah, they need to throw to him more.
Yeah, they do. Thank you, OB.
You bet.
Have a great weekend, brother.
Mm-hmm.
When we come back on TexAgs Radio, soon-to-be College Football Hall of Famer Kevin Smith will join us here on TexAgs, presented by David Garner's Jewelers. Welcome back. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Garner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. It is hour number 2 of the program. What is today? Friday, January 12th, 2024. Appreciate everybody listening in. Having a good old time. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center and get a couple text messages as we wait for Kevin Smith to join the program. Take it away, buddy.
Well, Sandman23 in the chat, YouTube chat, a while back, and I didn't really know that this was like a big debate, so maybe you as a Texans fan can, enlighten me. He says, Andre is the best Texan to ever live, in my opinion. JJ has a strong argument. Feels like you're a JJ guy.
I'm a both guy. I'm actually probably closer to Dre. When I say, I feel like in the very beginning, it was easy to talk to JJ, and he became bigger than life. So there was more layers in place, but JJ was great. JJ was awesome. Andre, I feel like always felt like very approachable. no matter what the situation was. Both amazing careers. I think JJ's the number one, and I hope Andre gets into the Hall of Fame. Both were great. Offensively, you can't argue with Dre's numbers, especially for most of his career having terrible quarterbacks. And JJ kind of revolutionized the way people looked at the Texans, right? He made them a destination. So props to that. What else we got?
Well, Beaglow in the chat for YouTube also says, Lane Kiffin would bring back Pete Golding as DC after Nick fired him. I believe Bama fans are not too keen to Pete Golding, even though he brought in a lot of talent there, and he's bringing in talent at Ole Miss. Do you think, would Bama fans have a problem if Lane Kiffin came and then he brought back Pete Golding, do you think?
I don't think they would mind. You got some who mind, some who won't, right? It's such a hard question. I don't think Lane Kiffin is leaving Ole Miss. I think Lane Kiffin is the kind of guy that's name gets popped up with a lot of these jobs. But I think Ole Miss is in better position next year to win than Alabama is next year. Although he's going to try to get his name in the mix. There's no doubt about it. But it's starting to feel like Kalen DeBoer is going to be the guy. That's what it's starting to feel like. All right, let's get another one in.
Well, let's get back to Sandman23 in the chat because he sent something. He sent just Lou Holt in the chat, and I thought, well, that would be a hilarious hire. Not realistic. Not going to happen. Obviously, he's retired. But what is your most hilarious hire? It doesn't have to be realistic. What is your most hilarious hire for Bama?
I really want it to be Bill O'Brien, what we talked about earlier. Hilarious hire. Let me think. You got we used to call him OB. We in the media. O'Brien would really be hilarious. I think not that it would be hilarious, but I'd like Mike Locksley there for obvious reasons because I think there's just too many unknowns. Hilarious. Give me some options. Give me some options of hilarious hires.
Well, Mike Price, right? Is one for sure. I think.
Yeah, Jimbo, Sandman, good one. Jimbo.
I think Gus Malzahn would be a hilarious hire at the kick six. Bama fans just hate Gus Malzahn. I think any Auburn coach ever would be hilarious. I think any LSU coach I think would be, well, not necessarily. I guess they hired Nick Saban. So
what if you're Hugh Freeze? What if you're Hugh Freeze and I like Auburn, but bro, these Bama resources are different. Can I get my name in the mix?
Well, I'll tell you someone else that Bama hates or Bama fans hate is Hugh Freeze, beating him 2 years in a row with Bo Wallace and Chad Kelly as their quarterbacks at Ole Miss. Yeah, I think I don't know. That would be hilarious. If Hugh Freeze got hired at Alabama, that would be hilarious because message boards were blowing up oh, they hired Hugh Freeze, all that baggage, and then they turn right around and then hire. It might be a good thing for Bama in the long term. Getting him out of Auburn where he's starting to build talent and whatnot.
The way I look at everything is how does it affect Texas A&M? That's how I look at things. So we'll talk about that here in a moment. You're listening to TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. So excited about our next guest. Kevin Smith is going to be the 12th Texas A&M player to be enshrined in the College Football Hall of Fame. First-round draft pick with the Cowboys. Hauled in 20 interceptions throughout his 9 years there in Dallas. 3-time Super Bowl champion. Yes! 1991 All-American. 3-time All-Southwestern Conference. He's A&M's all-time leader in interceptions with 20. Interception return yards, 289. And interceptions for touchdowns, 3. Credited with breaking up 32 passes. Ladies and gentlemen, our guest here on TexAgs Radio is Kevin Smith there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline with the Cowboys little jacket on. What's up, Kevin? How you doing, sir?
Hey, David. How you doing, man? You gave me – I don't remember all those things I did, man. You piled it up on me this morning. It made me feel pretty good.
Well, I will tell you, I grew up an Oilers fan, but because of you – those Cowboy years, I was very interested in what the Cowboys were doing. So it's great to get you here on the program. How'd you find out? How'd you receive the news that you were going in?
Well, it's kind of funny, Coach Slocum I guess Coach Slocum is on an early committee with the getting guys into the College Hall of Fame, and and he held it to a T. He really couldn't tell me much, and other than that I was inducted a couple of years, I got inducted a couple of years in a row, and I just moved about 2 weeks ago. And so the package that I was supposed to receive, I did receive it. I didn't know that it had been mailed out because it went to the old address. Mm-hmm. And so that day of, I saw where Randy Moss and Alex Smith had got they were told live on ESPN, I think the day before. I saw a report of that. And so that next day, I was thinking, well, maybe they're going to announce it, but I hadn't heard from anyone. So Coach Slocum calls about 3:30 in Dallas. That day in Dallas, it was a real gloomy day. And I think I just went to the store to get some cleaning items. And I got home and I hadn't checked my phone in the last hour or so. And about 3:30, I saw I missed a couple of calls from RC. And I said, well, let me check on Coach. You know, Coach has been sick. You know, he's been dealing with some things the last few years. Let me check on him. And he said, hey, you get some good news? And I said, no. He said, you get any news? I said, no. Do you have any good news for me? And he said, well, someone should have called you. You should have got something, right? I said, no. He said, well, I'll tell you what, I got to get in this stadium. You know, check your phone, stay close to your phone. You may get a call. So he held it to a T. He wouldn't tell me. You know, Coach Slocum would not tell me. And I looked down at my phone. I had a couple texts from Alan Cannon. You know, everyone knows who Alan Cannon is. And also Matt Watson that texted me from, the equipment guy with Texas A&M right now. And so I got those texts from those two guys congratulating me. And at that point, I knew that I'd made it. And, of course, the AD texted me, and Mike Elko sent a great text, you know, and I'm so happy and proud about what he's doing down there. But it's been a whirlwind since then. It's been great. And I actually got the package. Amazon email was in the spam, so I picked that package up 2 days ago. A day after that I was told.
What a fantastic story. Here's I just read your accomplishments a moment ago. I'm shocked. And I know it's probably hard for you to talk about yourself in this regard, but it took 22 years. I mean, are they smoking crack? Or you are the epitome of a Hall of Famer. So was it one of those things like you knew it was coming, or you just kind of forgot about it?
Well, I don't know. I think it's the COVID backed it up a little bit. You know, we can use that, but every year, every guy that's nominated in that field, I think they picked 60 guys nomination, and then it's about, I think it's 18 of us going in. The stats, you know, what I was saying, it was almost 6 million guys that have played college football since the 1970s. And then you got to go all the way back. You got guys before then, and it's only about 1,100 guys in the College Hall of Fame. But every guy that's on that list is deserving. I mean, I had a deal last night, a little podcast deal in Arlington, and Greg Hill was in that audience. You know, Ray Mickens was in that audience. You know, Darren Woodson, who's going into the NFL Pro Hall of Fame, was in that audience. I mean, so you had guys that were sitting right there with me last night at this little podcast, and those guys deserve to be in there. So, you know, every guy that's on that list, you know, probably deserves to be in the College Hall of Fame. They contributed to their school and the college football in some form or fashion that would probably give them a right to be in the College Hall of Fame. So even last year, I mean, the class was great. This year, the class is great. Each year, each group that they put in, I think is actually deserving of being in the College Hall of Fame.
Breaking it down here with Kevin Smith on TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. So let's talk about RC. You mentioned him calling you and what he means to you. Every player that I talk to on this show that talks about their love for him. What I love about it, Kev, is the fact that it's the same love you had for him years back. I feel like that's the vibe from all the players that played under him.
Well, it is. And the one thing about it, you know, and coaches say this all the time, you know, Coach Slocum, he said it and he implemented it, and it was passed on from even my high school coaches to Coach Slocum on up to Jimmy Johnson, those guys, is that football truly is a sport of life lessons. And it's unique that you got to have, you know, it's the most guys probably on the field at one time or in a locker room. And you got different personalities from different backgrounds, from different cultures, different religions. And you got to try to take all that and you put it in one big old pile, and you try to make these guys chase one common goal. And that's not just winning football games, but being good student athletes, having great character out in the community. And, you know, because all that factors in. If you don't have that, then you're not going to win a lot of football games. And so the one thing I tell people all the time about Texas A&M and my 4 years there, and I wouldn't trade them for nothing in the world. I mean, the Super Bowls, there would be no College Hall of Fame if I didn't have those 4 years, that learning experience coming in at 18 years old and leaving there. You know, I wouldn't even say a man, just a growing man, a young man, you know, that's ready to to challenge the world, you know, and some guys came in, they took advantage of it, and then some didn't. Most of us did, and those why those stories about RC and Jackie Sherrill and all the guys that were down there, and Jimmy Johnsons of the world, and Butch Davis and Dave Wanstedts and Bob Davies, you know, that's why guys speak so well about those guys, because they knew that it wasn't just all about football. It was about life. It was about growth. It was about being, you know, turning yourself into a young man.
Talking to Kevin Smith here on TexAgs Radio. How about being the 12th Aggie inducted? That number synonymous with our university. Just how cool was that?
I just thought about that. Wow, that David, that's something to think about, man. We may have to put that on a T-shirt.
Isn't that great?
That's I just thought about that. You know, it's crazy, man. It's you know, you would think that more guys would be in. You know, it's a process. It's not you know, you can't just throw guys in there. I mean, it's other guys that's very deserving, but to be listed with, you know, guys like John David Crow and Dat Wynn, Jacob Green, I mean, Ray Childress, you know, I watched those guys as a young boy growing up, watching Jacob and Ray, and some of the guys who have their names on streets and buildings and statues down at College Station. That really means a bunch, man. It's touching. You know, I'm honored. My mother is more honored than anything in the world, because she's, you know, I don't know how sold she was on Texas A&M when I first went there, but, you know, there's no person more of a Texas A&M, not just football fan, but I'm talking about the whole university. There's no one that's backing A&M than my mom, Orr Smith, and she's just super proud and excited about what's happened in the last week here.
We'll stay on that track for a moment, because what did it mean to you when you're playing at Kyle Field, you know? And back then the stadium was smaller than it is now, but it felt like the same kind of energy and same kind of power. Just what did it mean when you look up and see the 12th man?
Well, one of the statements I got during my recruitment trips was Bob Boyd was a guy who was a tight end coach at A&M. And I remember him saying, he said, you know what? You're going to come to A&M, you're going to play in front of 60, 70,000 people. And you may not know all of them, but once you start making plays, 20 or 30 years from now, they're going to remember you and they're going to know you. And that stuck with me for a long time. And I thought about it. I said, you know, you're gonna be a part of some people getting married. You know, if you play well, we win. Good things happen in College Station and Aggieland. You know, you know, people party, they have a good time, they find dates. You know, the people's lives started right there in Kyle Field. And so, you know, not only that, but what really brought love for me to Texas A&M after I got there was, once we got there, I didn't realize the traditions and the spirit that was really there. And, you know, for us to be in the dorm, you know, the day before the game, to see the preparation, the flags going up, and just the atmosphere and the smiles and the people, everything just changed because it was a day before the game. And then that day of the game, then, you know, we would go down, we'd meet our parents and our family in the lobby of Kane Hall. And then we were able to walk through that crowd into that stadium. And that was no better feeling. I know it's a little different. The run out is different. And I know they probably do it a whole lot more fancier than we did it. But it was, you know, you could shake hands and touch people. And it was the energy of the people of the Aggie fans, the spirit of Aggieland was just so powerful and so great. And I think that's what I remember most. I don't remember a lot of plays. I just remember getting ready for the games, coming out to the small crowd in the warm-up, going back in, and then coming out to a packed house of yelling crazy Aggies.
Kevin, what was it about that era of A&M football that, you know, for me, it doesn't feel like it's been that long, and then when you hear people talk about A&M being little brother and to Texas, and they're entering the conference this year and getting back to those glory years that you guys saw?
Well, I don't know. I think we have the athletes. I think the facilities and everything are there. We have everything that every other college. Actually, we have more than what other colleges want. I don't know. I'm not there. It's hard to tell. You're not inside the locker room. You know, I wasn't inside Jimbo Fisher's head or Coach Mike Elko's head. But one thing that we did have, and I talked about this with my Cowboy teammates, is that we had a culture in the locker room where we really trusted each other. We really wanted the best from each other. We studied each other. We knew a lot about each other. And so therefore, and one thing that we had is that we really wanted to be there. Most of the 95% of the guys that were there, I mean, we had a true brotherhood. There was no NIL, of course. There was no transfer portal. There was no in and out. It was no, we didn't have that. And, and the guy that thought he was an individual, we quickly reeled him in, So I think we had a better bond than what they have now. And that's not because the kids are totally different. It's just because they have access to so many other different things. We didn't have social media. Everybody on the campus didn't have a car. If I had a car, then 6 or 7 guys drove that car. Every year, and my mom would threaten to kill me because I had $700 worth of parking tickets because I would allow my teammates to use my car. So, if we had one car and 6 guys, we couldn't have that car in 6 different places. So that means we couldn't get around like these guys get around. So they got Hellcats and Chargers, and they got 2 cars down there now. So we didn't have the access to a lot of things. So we were really basically stuck in that dorm, and we were basic. We played cards, we played dominoes, we played ping pong, and we competed against each other. We fought, we loved, we hugged, we did everything. And we did it all together. And I think that, being in a dorm made it a little different than how they have it now. And so it's not so much the kids, it's just the setup, the access, but every other college has it as well. So that's not a super excuse, but that's what made us a little different back then.
Talking to Kevin Smith here on TexAgs Radio. So Olin Buchanan asked me to ask you about the Jerry Rice, the rivalry that you guys had, how you get under his skin, and you did awesome against him. Talk a little bit about what you remember about those years.
So we talked about this last night, and Daryl Johnston probably said it the best. I heard him in an interview a couple years ago. He said, "Hey, someone asked him about the Cowboys. He said, well, what was it with those Cowboys teams?" And he said, "Hey, you know what? We really just didn't know how good we were. We didn't know. I mean, we just was young, dumb, energetic, and we'd run through a wall. And we prepared. It wasn't. I know defensively we were just basic defense. We ran a 4-3 base defense. We ran quarters across the board and dropped the linebackers underneath. We basically was man to man with zone rules, but it wasn't nothing special. And for the corners, anything outside, that was your man. So, at that point, once I got in the huddle as a starter, Ken Norton's in that huddle, Charles Haley's in that huddle, Jim Jeffcoat had been there for years is in that huddle, so we had some veteran guys that I had to just, they were like, "Hey, if you're in here, you better perform." So, and Jimmy had the philosophy that we could run through a wall. So I didn't know. I really didn't know that I was playing against the great Jerry Rice. So I guess that's my only way of explaining it, because the less we knew about our opponent and the more we knew about ourselves, it gave us that advantage. And it was, Michael Irvin would always say, "Hey, we have to take their will. We have to take the game to them." And that's what we did. And playing Jerry Rice, I remember playing him, and we were going back and forth. And Charles Haley just got with us, was 49ers. And he said, "Hey, boy, you rookie, don't talk to Jerry Rice like that." And I'm like, I told Charles Haley at the time, I said, "If you want to go back over there, then you go change uniforms and take your tail back over there with the 49ers. Because, you either with us or you're not." And this is a championship game. Because him and Jerry Rice were real, they both from smaller schools, Mississippi Valley and James Madison. So he still had a love for Jerry Rice, but he was a Cowboy at the time. And then after that, Haley became a true Cowboy.
Yeah, no doubt about that. Hey, let me follow up with this. And one last thing about the Cowboys. I feel like that era of Cowboys, just like that era at A&M, all those dudes are still close, right? You mentioned the podcast you were on yesterday with a bunch of your buds. Like, I feel like that group stayed very tight.
Well, we did. And then the one thing about it, most of the guys from the 80s and the 90s and even the 70s, I mean, Too Tall Jones, I was telling someone the other day that, Too Tall Jones probably deserves to be in the Ring of Honor. And not only because he was a great football player, but Too Tall Jones has been with the Dallas. He's been in Dallas almost 50 years. And Too Tall Jones is like a walking statue. If he walks into a restaurant, you may not recognize me or Russell Maryland or even Dan Woodson, but you're going to recognize Too Tall Jones when he walks into a stadium. But he's been with around 50 years, quality guy, not in trouble. If you do well and keep your nose clean and keep yourself out of trouble, then you've definitely represented the Cowboys well, and you're a good ambassador. And a lot of us that's still in Dallas, there's opportunity here everywhere. Darren Woodson, Everson Walls in the 80s, Michael Downs, those guys, we still live in Dallas. We don't have to go anywhere because, we've laid a foundation and we see each other. We talk to each other. I love being around the 70s guys because I get to hear their stories. I like being around the 80s guys. I will hear their stories. Of course, Ray, we talk, we sit. Alcee Peterson was there last night. Haywood Clay was there last night. Dennis Ransom. So we all have a group text. David and Derek Frazier, of course, Derek as well.
Yeah.
We have a group text and we go at it. We don't always agree with everything that's going on with A&M and the coaching staff and NCAA football or whatever else. But we stay in touch in that group text. Sometimes I wake up in the morning, there's 30 messages on there. Dana Baptiste, Robert Wilson. There's just so many guys on there that we, from all over the country, we stay in touch. And it's a brotherhood. And again, I say that because even with the Cowboys, our training camps, we were in the dorm at St. Ed's University. We weren't in apartments. We weren't in a fancy hotel. We were in a regular dorm, St. Ed's, eating regular dorm food for a whole month at training camp. So I think that made a difference. It really changed the culture, and it really brought us a bond like no other. And I still communicate with all those guys.
Hey, last thing for you. You talked to Emmett about his son coming here?
I hadn't talked to Emmett yet. So I will text. I hadn't talked to Emmett because I think EJ committed on, I think, Saturday or Sunday. And then everything happened here Monday and Tuesday. But I will text Emmett, and I probably will see him at the game Sunday. Yeah, Sunday. Cowboys play Sunday. So I'll probably run past him Sunday.
Awesome, man. Well, hey, congratulations on the great honor. Love talking to you. I'm sad that it took this long to get you on the show. Let's do it more often, all right?
Yeah, definitely.
Thanks, Pup. Appreciate you, sir.
All right. You guys take care. Thanks, Dave.
Care. Kevin Smith there on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. That was fun. And we do it from time to time, catching up with the older guys. When I say older, just not current players. And we got to do that more often. Kevin was fantastic, so I appreciate his time here on the program. We're going to hit a break. We'll talk a little Kentucky basketball as A&M gets ready for them this weekend. We'll have that. We'll get to your text messages. Jack Pilgrim joins us next on TexAgs Radio. TexAgs Radio presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. So we are, 1 day, 3 hours, 32 minutes, and 51 seconds away from A&M versus Kentucky. I didn't do the math. It's on the A&M website. So we're going to break it down with Jack Pilgrim from KSR here on TexAgs Radio on the Brian Foley Law Hotline. Jack, how are you, sir?
I am very, very excited. I don't know if I'm counting down the seconds the way you guys are, but I'm very, very excited about this one.
All right, I see Carl Anthony Towns. Who else is in the picture? Is that John Wall to your left, I guess?
John Wall, and we got Willie Cauley-Stein here too. Is Cat dunking on Willie Cauley-Stein?
Got it. Okay, well, as for John Wall, I grew up in Houston. Not the best Houston Rocket of all time, but definitely an amazing NBA player, no doubt about it. Let's talk Kentucky this year, because I know the ranking, I know the reputation, I know that the last couple of years haven't gone as planned. If we haven't watched a lot of Kentucky, what can you tell us about this year's team, number 6, with a great chance to move up the rankings here at the end of the weekend?
Throw everything that you've seen about Kentucky the last couple of years and just get that out of your mind and focus on a completely brand new, modern NBA style of basketball that's truly 5 out, something that I think a lot of Kentucky fans never thought they'd see the day. This is a group of 5 positionless basketball players where every one of them can pass, dribble, and shoot, and that's something that Cal kind of sort of got to in his Memphis days, but really has tried to drive home with this group. Adding Trey Mitchell has kind of been just a game changer for this group, and everything has kind of gone around him at that 5 spot. Obviously, they've added size and length and depth with Aaron Bradshaw and Ugana Onyenso getting added to the fold, but this group is about versatility, beating you off the dribble, getting out in transition and scoring a ton of points. Very, very bad defensively, but they have proven that they can outscore just about anybody in college basketball at this rate.
Talking to Jack Pilgrim here. So Jay Billis says they're the fastest team in the country. Talk a little bit about that speed and how they use it.
Yeah, so Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd are 2 lottery picks in the latest projected mock draft, and they are Kentucky's 6th and 7th men, if that tells you anything about what this group has. DJ Wagner, Antonio Reeves, Justin Edwards, guys that really like to get out and transition, score around the basket, and they're shooting better than I think anybody anticipated when this season started. Antonio Reeves is shooting just lights out. I think he's more likely over the course of his career to hit 3 threes than hit no threes. I did the math on that. So DJ Wagner, a guy that Cal has been in love with since the 8th grade, family legacy recruit for him. Everything has kind of been built around him. And I don't think there was an expectation that Reed Shepherd and Rob Dillingham were going to be as talented as they ended up being. So that has kind of thrown a good wrench into Kentucky's plans, where you establish a pretty firm and solid lead there early, and then the reinforcements come in at the 16 minute mark, and that's where Kentucky has been killing teams, kind of getting things rolling early and then just kind of doubling down with that pace and that athleticism with Rob Dillingham and Reed Shepherd off the bench.
In a legend like Coach Cal, how big of a season is this particular season, considering what we talked about to lead into the interview? Like, things haven't gone the way Kentucky had planned for them to go, especially with the talent that they had.
Yeah, this has been, whether they'll admit it or not, this has kind of been a make or break year. I think it hasn't even just been the postseason results. It's just the style of play and the fun factor that I think Kentucky fans have been just very impatiently awaiting. I think this is something that losing games is unacceptable here, but losing games and having the brand be ugly on top of it is kind of just a 1-2 punch that Kentucky fans just really have not been welcoming with open arms. So there was a really serious point of emphasis on this staff to just kind of completely rebrand. They brought in John Welch, who's kind of known as this offensive guru from the NBA, a mastermind that has worked with the likes of Carmelo Anthony, Allen Iverson, go down the list, some of the all-time greats in the NBA, as kind of the player whisperer, if you will. So brought him in to kind of say, hey, let's focus on player development. Let's focus on playing a true NBA 5-out style of play, and let's get this thing rolling again. And they added the right pieces. I think every player on the roster, you can kind of point out individual flaws, but the cohesive unit as a whole, I think has been, they just work really, really well together. And I think a big part of that, as I said, just to start this, Trey Mitchell's kind of been he was the last piece added, but I think he's been the most valuable piece added.
Yeah, I keep reading that. Like, people say, don't sleep on the season that Trey Mitchell's having. Talk about what makes him so valuable.
Because he has a feel for the game unlike any big I've seen Kentucky have. These guys didn't touch what Trey Mitchell is doing. He just has a basketball IQ where you can run the offense through him. He's not a point guard. He's not a point forward even, but he gets the ball at the top of the key and he makes decisions in ways that we just have not seen a big do. This team doesn't have back to the basket Oscar Tshiebwe's anymore. That's kind of something that Kentucky really, Cal wanted to get away from and really just focus on, okay, I want guys who, if I put the ball in their hands at any spot of the floor, I trust them in what the next step is going to be for them. And Trey Mitchell kind of being the straw that stirs the drink, if you will, where he can make shots in catch and shoot opportunities. He can, find the right reads. He can throw lobs. He's just that initiator and playmaker at 6'9", 230 pounds. It's just something that we have not seen from a versatility and just offensive feel standpoint from any big that Cal has ever had.
All right, so 2 losses on the year. Kansas, not a big deal, right? Like, that's Kansas, right? I get it. UNC Wilmington, what happened there? That was 18.5-point favorites, I believe, in that game. What happened in that one?
So DJ Wagner was out, the starting point guard out. It was also the first game that Aaron Bradshaw, they tried to throw into the mix and just kind of figure out what they had with him. And I think, I don't want to say they overlooked UNC Wilmington, but I will say that they did not have the right energy and mindset going in. I think they were more focused on, okay, how do we adjust without DJ Wagner? We don't really need him in this one. Let's focus on the next one. And how can we incorporate Aaron Bradshaw into this? What does he look like? He's had a broken foot since the McDonald's All-American game in the spring. Where does he fit in the fold? So there was almost such a serious mindset focus on themselves and not really focused on what the opposition looked like. They mucked things up and just kind of let things get away from them in Kentucky's eyes. So it was really just they were focused too much on themselves, trying to figure out how to utilize a new 7'1" piece into the lineup more so than how do we beat this team.
If there's an area of concern for Kentucky, it's been the rebounding, right? And that's something that A&M shines at. They're one of the top 10 teams in the country at that.
Yeah, I think that is where the game is lost and won on Saturday, I believe. I think Florida is the number one offensive, just overall rebounding team in the nation, and Kentucky went down to Gainesville with a mindset of we will either win or lose this game depending on how we do on the glass. They lost 43-40. Kentucky just couldn't afford to go in and get destroyed on the glass. That is something that has been a serious, just a game before that, they got beat pretty soundly on the glass against Illinois State, and that was just something that was not acceptable. 24 offensive rebounds, which if you look at Texas A&M's game plan, number one offensive rebounding team, that's where Buzz Williams should be excited and try to just throw all of his energy into that basket, because that is a path to Texas A&M winning this game. This is going to be a game where Cal has kind of shown some frustration for the first time with Aaron Bradshaw, Ugon Onyenso, the 7-footers, about their lack of energy and effort on the glass, and has basically said, I will bench you if you don't get your body in there and kind of muck things up the way teams are trying to do to you. We know what we have with Trey Mitchell at the 5, and we'll go small. Yeah, we'll get crushed on the glass, but at that point, it's going to be, let's just see if we can beat you 95-90. Kyle's comfortable playing that way with that group, but he really wants to figure out how to control the glass and not just get destroyed. This is never going to be an elite rebounding team. They just have to, be combative in that area. And if it can kind of be what it was down in Gainesville, where Florida won 43-40 on the glass, I think Kentucky has a great shot to everything else to fall into place offensively.
Jack, last thing for you, 90 points a game. A&M ain't touching that. Like, that's an incredible number. But is Kentucky, you think, defensive game plan to do what other teams are doing, which I would assume keep doing it until it doesn't work, get the ball out of Wade Taylor's hand, have somebody else try to beat you?
Yeah, that's definitely it. I mean, I think they know Cal kind of has this mindset of every team that that faces off against Kentucky is going to shoot 23s and hit all of them and shoot 80% from three. Like that, there's this mindset that teams just get red hot against Kentucky. So I think there is kind of an internal worry that one of the worst 3-point shooting teams in college basketball is going to magically get hot, and that's going to be how things go. So I think number one on the scouting report is Wade Taylor. How do you slow him down? If you can kind of shut him down and just, they don't have to shoot 15% from three, but if they can neutralize them in that area and kind of maintain that season average, everything else should fall into place on that regard. But defense is not the star of the show for Kentucky. I think Wade is still going to do what he does and score at will. It's at the point of attack where Kentucky has struggled the most, just really struggling, staying one-on-one and getting beat off the dribble, straight line drives. So that is also something to keep a close eye on, that I think there is an advantage there if that's how Buzz Williams wants to attack this defense.
Jack Pilgrim from KSR. Thanks, man. Appreciate your time.
Appreciate you.
Take care. Jack Pilgrim doing good work there. Appreciate his time. All right. I said appreciate 3 times in 12 seconds. New record. Let's hit a break. We'll come back with Around the SEC and see what Nick Savage is thinking. After that, a little Luke, who's got, what has he got? He's got Around Aggieland for us today. Right now, a moment for Caldwell Country Chevrolet, Highway 21 in Caldwell. Online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. Who's looking for a new car? Raise your hand. That'd be weird because I can't see you. But if you're looking for a new car, if you are thinking you might need a car here in spring break, I'll give you our example. The Twins aren't getting a car anytime soon. They don't have to wait for it. But they're going to be 16 soon, which means I got to start thinking about that car situation, right? It ain't going to be on their birthday, but I know when I start looking for the vehicle, I'm going to Caldwell Country Chevrolet because many reasons. First off, the customer service. Yeah, you say, well, that's the first thing. Well, yeah, it's the first thing because a lot of these people will try to give you the right price and then they'll have some little fake, added prices that you didn't see. Caldwell Country Chevrolet, you get the great customer service, which means you can trust their word, which means you're going to get the right vehicle at the right price, and you're also going to get a great trade-in value. Boom, you got your car dealership right there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. It is an amazing place because of their complimentary pickup for service customers, the great pricing, and, of course, their outstanding selection of vehicles. Not a far drive either. We're talking about 15 minutes from the very edge of Bryan to the beginnings of Caldwell. Short conversation away, but you'll see the difference when you step on the lot and do business with the great people there at Caldwell Country Chevrolet. Highway 21 in Caldwell, online, CaldwellCountryChevrolet.com. I got a feeling this weekend. I got nothing for you. TexAgs
David
Radio.
Nuño, noted Black Eyed Peas super fan.
Well, you've heard. This is where there's a group of people listening now. They're gonna do that rap thing again. I used to like the Black Eyed Peas before Fergie joined the group, and then she ruined them. That's it. She's like Yoko Ono.
I'm not going to argue with you. I
don't think you know enough
I
about
would
the
know.
topic.
Yeah, I don't.
Could you name any members of the Black Eyed Peas?
Will.i.am.
All right.
That's all I know.
What about Taboo?
Nope.
Apple Diap?
Mm-mm.
Fergie?
Oh, I should have known that one.
Steve Ledbetter?
No.
Matt Hugo?
No.
Made
Has there
those
really
two.
been that many people
No,
on there?
just the last two.
Oh.
Those are friends of mine from fraternity days. Just want to do random stuff. Hey, we're TexAgs Radio. We're presented by David Gardner's Jewelers in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Nick, we did not talk about something that some people, I think, are like, what, we have to announce it? Well, kind of in today's world of college football. Will you tell us what was announced yesterday?
Yeah, well, Texas Aggies United put out another tweet. It's kind of like one of those Elko tweets with the Manziel gif, but this is just as good. Rueben Owens coming back for another season. And yeah, like you said, some people think, what's the point of announcing a return? But I think it does show that it kind of builds momentum into, hey, we're together, we're a team. We're done bailing out, I guess the people who have wanted to go are gone. Good. Now we're going to run it back, as that graphic says. But he's, a key piece. You can go ahead and play that, Cole. Yeah, there's his stats through 13 games. 743 all-purpose yards. And I guess, would you agree with me, David, that he was probably last season the third back out of the rotation? But, you could figure all three coming back, but from what we've seen from Rueben, I think he's made a case to get some more carries, some touches, maybe some, you got to fill a return role. So does he fill that with Anias going to the NFL? Who knows? But a big piece coming back for A&M.
We say this a lot, but he's another one of those guys that I think is really going to benefit from a Tommy Moffitt strength and conditioning program.
Yep.
He's the guy that last year I kept on thinking he was a step away from just breaking. And then when he was broke, I thought this is it. This is where it's the Rueben Owens, era. That may happen this year. The whole running back group, I think, a little underwhelming last year, right? I think that's a fair way to say it.
Yeah.
He needs to improve on his blocking. And a year with Tommy Moffitt's going to help out. A whole offseason with Tommy Moffitt's going to help out. And I think just experience. Now, A-Chain had those brilliant moments his freshman year, but it took time. I expect that kind of momentum to happen for Rueben as well. Le'Veon is a guy that I feel like if he just stayed healthy would have had a huge year. And Amari Daniels is a guy that I think we sleep on often, but we shouldn't. I think Amari Daniels has been, he has a lot of big plays. I know he had a couple of those issues midseason with the fumbles or the drops, but when he got going, he certainly got it going. Let's go back to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. I know we've got around the SEC notes to get into. Matthew Dawson.
Yeah, well, basketball is kind of going crazy in the SEC right now, and I don't think that's a secret. We can use our eye tests and figure out, maybe some teams like, our loss to LSU wasn't very good. Maybe LSU isn't as good as their wins says against the Aggies. But there are 10 teams right now in the SEC that are already at double-digit wins. You had big upsets the other night. You had Mississippi State upsetting Tennessee, and they moved to 12-3. You have Georgia, who's 12-3 all of a sudden. Chris Beard's Ole Miss is 14-1. That is absurd to me. That is absurd. And then you also, around the SEC, in terms of football, you're looking at transfers. Casey Thompson, FAU, former Texas quarterback. I'm sure a lot of you remember him playing there, switching time with Hudson Card. He's back at Oklahoma. He will not start, likely. Jackson Arnold seems like he's the guy there.
Yeah.
But Casey Thompson is from Oklahoma, so I'm sure he just wanted to come back home, closer to home, finish off a third master's degree probably, as this is like his 6th year. So Jalen Kimber from Florida, cornerback, he's transferring to Penn State. A.J. Harris from Georgia is also transferring to Penn State. They're kind of collecting cornerbacks over there at Penn State, and we're losing some in the SEC. Florida only has 2 cornerbacks that have any experience, real or meaningful experience on their roster, including a transfer from Tulane, DJ Douglas. And Georgia, look, they're still loaded at the DB room, so there's nothing to worry about there. But those are some of the transfers happening the last couple days.
Matthew, let's read the last couple text messages that came in. Tayag and Taylor and David in the Pacific Northwest.
Yeah, let's go to David in Pacific Northwest. Seattle Sports is trying to campaign for Harbaugh to take the Seahawks job.
Interesting indeed. It feels like that's another one of those dominoes, like who goes to Michigan. I mean, I know there's been the Brian Kelly stuff going on, but Harbaugh's going to Vegas if he goes anywhere, right? Like, that just seems like a Harbaugh place.
I guess. I mean, look, Seattle, they did a good job hiring a college coach last time, and it worked out pretty well for them. So then TexAg and Taylor, long overdue for Pup, great Aggie, and one of the all-timers in Aggieland. Couldn't agree more.
I love that interview. It was so much fun to talk to Kevin Smith. We'll hit a break. We'll do Around Aggieland when we come back. Right now, Milliken Reserve time. See how the voice went really high on that one. Farm-to-table community in College Station. They got homes, they got trails, they got wide open spaces, and their mission is to build a healthy community around nature. They've dedicated to the conservation of a healthy community, respect for that native landscape and wildlife. And here's the beauty. 26 acres of open space, farms and trails, and homes. Milliken Reserve connects families to nature and to each other. They have an extensive network of trails throughout a wooded landscape, includes walking and equestrian paths, creeks and ponds, and gathering areas. A place for families to cherish generation after generation. Milliken Reserve is committed to maintaining and restoring that natural habitat. You got white-tailed deer there. They're beautiful. They've got songbirds. They got rabbits. They got turtles. And homeowners at Milliken Reserve sharing a legacy of conservation, which means generation after generation, you're coming back to that pristine countryside place, a beautiful place to go hiking, biking, canoeing, kayaking. They got the equestrian trails. They got the evening yoga. They got it all. Check it out at millikenreserve.com. Again, that website, millikenreserve.com. A lot of laughing by Luke Evangelist. What are you laughing about?
I don't know. It's just exciting to be back.
Is it?
Yeah.
You got a big smile on your face. You're happy. I mean, your team Michigan won.
Yeah. I was anticipating. That's why I'm smiling. I was anticipating that you would be rubbing it in.
Well, first off, I understand your lovely mom, who I've not met, was listening, and I want to apologize for her because nobody likes when somebody picks on their child. I would fight. Like, if you made fun of Christian and Cruz, you will die here on the set.
Right.
Facts, okay? That being said, my only issue, and I want to make sure I clarify, I think you should celebrate Michigan's victory. Your father went to school there, right?
No, but my whole family has been brainwashed by my mom.
Okay, but your mom. Okay.
Yeah.
You should celebrate that. Absolutely. I just think as a TexAgs employee, it's a little weird. That's it. Like, to put it out there. I think celebrate it at home. Like if you are a communist, like, you don't want to tell people that. Like, just keep that communism at home. Don't do it around me.
I don't think being a Michigan fan is comparable to being a communist, though.
Yes, they're not as bad. They may be close, but they're not as. I'm kidding.
Right.
I'm happy for you and Richard Zane. All right.
Thank you.
I just think it's weird to go to a school and wear another shirt. That's just all I'm saying. That's it.
That's okay. I totally understand where you're coming from. Michigan probably will not ever get back there again.
Team USA with us Aggies, but that's okay. You can celebrate that one.
Yes, and I will be celebrating this one because I actually got this from someone on the Aggie baseball staff.
Oh, wow.
So
hold on. Hold that thought. That's great. I wouldn't, if Cuba won the World Cup, they'll never win the World Cup. I'm not wearing a Cuba. I'm an American.
Mm-hmm.
America. Okay? So just so you know, continue on.
Speaking of Aggie baseball, they are ranked 7th in the Perfect Game preseason poll, and we are now just 35 days away from Texas A&M baseball returning to play McNeese, a.k.a. the Fighting Ryan Broningers.
That's right.
I just want to get your take on who do you think Bronny will be rooting for and if he'll be wearing a shirt or not.
Okay, so this is very easy. Bronny is not dumb enough to wear another school. I don't think. I haven't seen it. Has he?
They are blue and gold, by the way.
Has he ever worn a McNeese shirt at work? I haven't seen it.
I don't know.
He's an Aggie. Bronny's an Aggie. So he's wearing Aggie colors.
Okay. Well, we'll see about that. Speaking of Aggie baseball, I've got some more news for you. The Hallettsville Hammer, Ryan Targach, has been named to wear the number 12 for Jim Slauson Eagles Club this year. That honor was previously given to Troy Clonch and Austin Boast. So congratulations to Ryan Targach. And speaking of another great Aggie baseball legend, Jim Slauson Eagle is receiving the Turn It Gold Bold Award for his commitment to childhood cancer research and activism. He'll be receiving this award on January 27th.
Fantastic. That's great stuff. Anything else?
Yeah, I've got a couple other things, but it sounds like the music
we
is
got
playing.
48 seconds. Go, buddy.
Okay, well, I've got a little funny one for you.
Okay.
Rueben Owens is announcing that he's returning.
Yeah.
And I just want to say that I'm really excited about it, and other fans might be sauerkraut that he is returning for A&M football.
How long did it take for you to work on that?
Actually, that was 30 seconds.
Okay, that's good. I like when they're like spontaneous like that.
I'm just Italian dressing up the segment.
This has been one of our best we've done.
Thank you.
Good job, buddy. You're doing the social center soon too, right?
Yeah, I'll be back.
All right. Thank you, buddy. When we come back, I think we'll have Billy Liucci in studio. We're on the phone, or we'll wait for him. Either way, Billy Liucci very soon on TexAgs Radio. Get your text messages, your questions in at 979-693-1150. We'll be back in 2 and 2. It is TexAgs Radio. We are presented by David Gardner's Jewelers. We're here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Should have Billy on the program here shortly. If you want to be a part of the conversation while we wait for Billy, you can do that at 979-693-1150. Let's go to the Angry Elephant News and Social Center. And I'm gonna challenge you, Mr. Dawson. All right? I want you to go into that brain of yours where apparently you do databases often and pull out page 3, line 7, topic of the day. Ready, go.
Topic of the day. Oh, something that we haven't already talked about? That's
No, I mean, it could be something, but a different spin. Different spin.
Okay, here's what I'll bring up, though. Luke was talking about the Rueben sandwich. I personally don't love Rueben sandwiches. I like them a lot. But, like, I don't know. For me, I'm a sub sandwich guy. Back home in the near Chi-Town, we had a place. It's called Tony's Subs. Gosh, they made a great Italian sub. So I don't know, what's your sandwich of choice, David?
See, this is where I lose the audience. People
but
start
I think
hating
people want to
me.
know. Do people
Don't want to know, but this is where people hate me because I'm not a normal human. I'm just like the things that I do annoy people, right? Like I don't think that they're annoyed that I don't drink alcohol, but like I measure my food, I weigh it, like stuff like that. I'm not a big subs guy. Like if I'm gonna eat a sandwich, I'm just gonna do it at home. And why am I gonna spend $12 to go eat a sandwich somewhere? Unless you're a proud sponsor of TexAgs Radio. But like I struggle going to sub shops. Sometimes, you're in a hurry, you got kids, you got to get something, like you want something. But like to pay $9 for a 12-inch meatball sandwich, I just have a problem with that. Or a little cold cut, just is not my thing. I think Italian sandwich sounds good. I think I would like. What's the name of the place?
It's called Tony's Subs. It's a little expensive, but it's a local place though. It's got all the characters that you need.
I think if you go to a place that is like synonymous with a community, like you get certain types of pizza in New York, right? Like that, I get that. But to spend, I don't go. How about this? I'm not into the franchise places that are all around the country.
I
not
get
my
it.
thing.
I understand paying the money too, like that's a big factor, right? And that's a good argument. But if you're telling me that you don't like sub sandwiches, I always say you are the one making the sandwich, right? How could you not like the sandwich if you're the one making the sandwich?
Because I can go to H-E-B. Billy's here, by the way. I can go to H-E-B. I can go to whatever grocery store you like, Randall's. I don't think they have those. Tom Thumb. And I can just do it myself, right, for $4 and do several of them. We're just talking, Billy, about sub sandwiches, and I just feel like that's an investment that I'm not into for the pricing. Like, it just doesn't work for me.
Investment.
Like, I'm not going to spend $10 to go buy a sub. I'll just go to H-E-B.
You'll make like 3 of them for that much.
Yeah, that's just how I operate. Like, to me.
Get it?
Yeah, it's just, how you been, buddy?
Are you going to do all the stuff that they do, though? Or I could see you going like
I don't do the whole
plastic-covered cheese, plastic ham. Like
plastic ham.
Well, it could be plastic, but the ham that comes out of the package.
I prefer to have deli
like
slice from an actual,
Thank you.
It's healthier.
I should have known that. But just slap some meat and cheese on I would probably think the bread's pretty suspect.
Sourdough, very healthy, very good.
I'm not a fan. See, that's what I'm saying. Like, if you're going to eat the bread, just eat the damn bread. If you're going to do a sandwich, eat the sandwich.
Yeah, you sourdough bread, 1 piece of cheese, okay? Swiss typically, provolone.
Provolone's good.
Couple of slices of ham or turkey, right?
Or both.
And then the other piece of bread. Boom.
That's it.
That's it.
No lettuce.
If it's available.
No tomato.
Sure. If it's available.
No oil and vinegar.
No. No.
Not that unhealthy.
No, but it's not. No.
Oil and vinegar.
But
make
people
it a little
don't
wet.
measure it.
You want it to be a little wet when you're eating it.
It's. I just look at it as a quick meal. Yes.
I heard the back just then.
Yeah.
And they can hear me right now.
Yeah.
Okay. You do want the sandwich to have oil and vinegar. Or what about, do you have oregano at the house?
Oh,
Do you have salt and pepper?
I have salt and pepper.
Okay.
I have salt.
I mean,
pepper.
like you.
I think if I'm making
you have
it,
avocado if you want to change it up, or maybe some
Absolutely.
bacon, quick heat bacon, just the kind you
turkey
can.
bacon.
That's fine.
Yeah.
Okay, so
This seems like a lot of
I'm
work
just
at this
exactly what I'm telling you. To make a proper sandwich, it's not as quick and easy as you think. So therefore, then I go, is it just as good just to spend couple extra bucks and go get it at the store.
Very rarely am I craving a sub, though. Maybe that's the problem.
Yeah. Okay. Now, with that said, Brock Osweiler.
Tallest, worst quarterback in Texas
I heard
history.
you guys talking about him.
Yeah.
You want to hear an interesting story about Brock Osweiler? I don't know if people know. I know no one knows this unless I've said it before.
Okay.
Because I've never heard it or read it or anything. So, Brock Osweiler could have potentially kept A&M and Johnny Manziel from winning a Heisman Trophy. So, when Kevin Sumlin got the job here, he had an old coaching friend that has worked with him in the past, or I believe they'd worked together, but really good friend, and was trying to get this job. Was working overtime to get this job, and Sumlin was not being responsive, and he assumed, well, I hear he's just going to hire Cliff, but Cliff was so inexperienced, he could do it. It's a guy by the name of, wait for it, Noel Mazzoni, who he ended up circling back to. But Noel, as coaches tend to do when they've got a hire in mind, and and every friend you've got in the business, oh man, that's Nuño, that's my guy, he's going to hire me. Well, he can only hire one. He can't hire 10 of y'all, so the other 9 friends get, that think, oh, it's Nuño, he's hiring me. They don't get the job. That's commonplace, and that's what was going on. So he's having a hard time getting a hold of somebody, so he was calling me. I've known him for, prior to that, 10-plus years when Coach Sumlin first got here. So that however many years ago that was, from when at least a decade, right? And one of the big pitches was Noel, I think, had left Arizona State and was on the verge or was on the verge of taking the UCLA job that same offseason. Arizona State's quarterback was Brock Osweiler. And apparently what it sounded like his pitch was, he's leaving to go wherever I go. If I got to A&M, he'd come with me. He's a pro. He's an NFL QB. He's, obviously he had already done well. I don't remember if he finished at Arizona State or just went to the NFL. I know he didn't transfer to UCLA, but at that year, you'd have to fact check that year. But had Sumlin, and I think he might have had Cliff not come, which why would Cliff not come? It was he was young, getting an OC job at A&M. But the pitch was Brock Osweiler come to A&M with Noel Mazzoni, and you wonder if that would have been the case, then they probably don't start Johnny, because Cliff was the one that was absolutely in love with Johnny from the start. That would have almost been he comes over, quarterbacks for 1 year, then it's Johnny's. Who knows? Who knows how history would have been altered?
But it would have been altered.
It wasn't going to, though, in this instance. There's a lot of those what-ifs over the years, but in this one, Sumlin was bringing Cliff with him no matter what. There was no – it's not like Cliff was staying at U of H to stay as OC there. It's not like he had head coaching opportunities or even other big-time OC opportunities. His rise is incredible if you really think about it, Cliff Kingsbury's, because it was U of H – OC and A&M for 1 year, lit the SEC on fire, Heisman Trophy winning quarterback. He's a head coach.
Right.
Power 5, alma mater. And then obviously the rest of it gets even more fascinating because didn't have very much success there at Tech, but did coach Pat Mahomes, did send Baker Mayfield packing in order to play Pat Mahomes, and then, didn't have a ton of success, got fired, and then next thing you know, he's an NFL head coach. Took a team to the playoffs, right?
Yeah.
Crazy.
Before we get into the Nick Saban stuff, I just want to tell you one of my favorite parts of this job.
Well, thank you. I enjoy seeing you every morning too, David.
Great to see you, buddy. Yeah, I love that coat too.
Thanks.
One of my favorite parts of working at TexAgs is getting to interview guys that I watched and loved before I was even an Aggie. For instance, today I got to talk to Kevin Smith on the show. That is just, and hearing his story, and those are the years that helped mold my Aggie fandom today, right? Like, I obviously I went to school here. I would have been a fan. But I was watching Aggie football in the 80s with Bucky, when Kevin was playing here, all these dudes, and, like, talking to them 20, 30 years later, to me, is one of my great thrills, and it was just cool to celebrate on air with Kevin Smith.
Pup's one of my favorite. I need to call him about the Hall of Fame, but one of my favorite people that's played here, just personality, and then you start to say who are your favorite like superstar former players, and I like to think of, I have like a dividing line of like my guys, like the guys I grew up with, went to school with, that group. Then there's the athletes I've quote unquote covered, and then there's the ones that were here before me that I've met through this job, and I'm not sure if 1, 2 on the list aren't the two you just mentioned, Kevin and Bucky. And I can't wait to get Bucky back. He's been going, to watch his son play at Oklahoma State first, then TCU. So I'm ready to have Bucky back. He was at a game, was it this year or last year? So it was great to see him. I know he's at the bowl game, too, down in Houston. But actually, I think it was Florida last year, so Bucky's 0 for 2. Maybe we don't want him back. But, yeah, like those two guys, and they were also two of the very first to kind of reach out and embrace what I was doing, that I didn't know, that I had no idea who. I knew who they were, but I didn't know them. I didn't go to college with them. And Pup obviously has, been a regular on the TexAgs boards and the premium forum from day one. So great appreciation for him, and such a deserved honor because that dude,
balled out.
An incredible cornerback, incredible. I talk a lot about Aaron Glenn and Ray Mickens because right after Kevin, it was Derek Frazier, Aaron Glenn, and Ray Mickens. And Frage I've known of, where he went to high school. So since I was in junior high, he was a quarterback at Clements, playing against Grady Cavness and Willowridge. And Grady went on and was a really good player at Texas in that secondary. But Derek was quarterback at Clements, and that was where I thought, in junior high, that's where I was going to go to high school. And then they opened Kempner. So Frazier, AG, Ray Mickens, but man, right before I got here, Kevin Smith. So I remember him way more for what he was doing on the Cowboys when they were winning those Super Bowls.
Well, for a guy who didn't grow up liking the Cowboys, I watched because of Kevin Smith. Like, I was interested because of him.
Yeah. So, and Emmett and Irvin and Aikman.
Yeah, but it was trendy in Houston to hate the Cowboys, right?
Who was their tight end? That big gazelle from Montana.
What's his name?
I always forget his name. And you had Moose at fullback. Who was the tight end? Keep going. Somebody will text it.
Yeah. Anyway, do you want to start with a little Nick Saban talk?
Sure.
We haven't.
What do you want to start with? The Nick Saban talk or the who's going to replace him talk?
Well, why don't we start with who's going to replace him? Is it Kalen DeBoer?
I've been thinking that. I said that on, I don't know who I was responding to, Booger or somebody. I've been thinking it's DeBoer.
Jay Novacek.
Jay Novacek.
Thank you, Dalton.
He was a stud. I say Montana. He might have been from Wyoming, maybe, or South Dakota, whatever. Somewhere I want to travel to. But look, I never thought, and I'm documented and people understand, I've never thought it was going to be Dan Lanning. And I don't understand people in the national media taking days into a search at Alabama, of all jobs, to realize that's not a $20 million buyout. And no one I know over there at any point thought they were leaving. They at no point did they think they were leaving. I think if they would have left Oregon, they would have come to A&M. And I don't mean A&M over Alabama. I mean if they were attainable, they would have already been in College Station. And that includes Bama because it was a money thing. Dan Lanning's he is so locked in there, and it's not $20 million. And a couple people finally said it, and then it's more like anywhere from $45 to $50 million. But Alabama's not paying that. A&M's not paying. Nobody's paying that. So, and they've got a good thing going, so it's great. It's great for Lanning, and it's great for Phil Knight because they basically go up and publicly say we're turning things down. The way they did it with his team, and that team meeting was really savvy. That's why Lanning's such a hot name. He's pushing all the right buttons. Yeah. It was never, in my opinion, it was never going to be him. no matter how close Alabama thought they could get, it was not going to be him. So I did hear the thing. Somebody told me the other day, well, that night it's a Sexton client. Well, who's not? I don't know if Norvell's a Sexton client. He was, there's been a split there. A couple of his agents have left, including Mike Elko's, his personal agent. So some people think somebody's a Sexton client, and they're really not. There's a handful of coaches that fall into that category. But I frankly, I think, and I had heard Lanning, DeBoer, and Kiffin. I thought it's not Lanning. There's a third other guy. And the one that makes the most sense to me is Norvell, because he wants the hell out.
Right.
And that was before yesterday's news. He wants the hell out. He wanted out because they don't know what conference they're going to be in. He wanted out because of the mass attrition. It's like someone told me that around there in Tallahassee, it's like Hiroshima. It's just like a bomb has gone off and nothing is the same there right now. Like there's no positivity. There's nothing going in the right direction. There's so much uncertainty, and there's so much, like you said earlier, complaining that they have a right to. There's a lot of anger and frustration, and it just doesn't seem like a good environment. And that dude would be out the door if given the chance to coach at Bama. So I think because he's so attainable, you got to leave him into that.
Mm-hmm.
But you look at Kalen DeBoer, and I know they don't have final say, and we learned that here. Athletic directors can walk around and think they have final say. They don't have final say at most places. I don't think Greg Byrne has final say at Alabama. But you have to think of human nature and who's doing the decision-making. Nick Saban, Greg Byrne will be involved on whatever level, significant level, those two names, along with the power brokers and the money people there, right? You think of Nick Saban's personality and who he is. And you think about Greg Byrne, who has had to walked in to Nick Saban, kind of like Ross Bjork walked in here with Jimbo Fisher. You're not their boss. You're supposed to be, but you're not.
You're not.
And you never were, and you never would be. And from day one, that person has infinitely more power than you in your own department. Now you get a chance to reset. You think Greg Byrne wants to deal with someone like Lane Kiffin? Do you think, Norvell does not have the most squeaky clean image prior to coming there? Do you think, you start thinking of things like that. That factors in. Nick Saban, do you think he doesn't still remember Lane and, leaving right before the national championship game? Do you think he really could say, yeah, I want my next coach to be all over the Twitter and tweeting and doing,
right?
You think Nick Saban thinks that the Alabama head coach should be sitting there doing that kind of stuff? So I can't picture it being Lane as good a job as I think he could do there. Plus, there are so many red flags in terms of, hey, that's a little bit more of a risky hire. They had the safest bet in college football for God knows how long. So when you take all that into account and you talk about and hireable and winning football, who fits that?
Kalen DeBoer.
To me, it's him. And you look at how much he loses.
And he's losing, yeah, exactly.
To me, that would seem to fit. Now, with that said, I've got one person that I trust that keeps circling back to Dabo.
Okay.
We all know he played there. We all know at one point in time he was going to be the pick, the hand-picked successor is what everyone assumed, except for, there's this certain contingent of Twitter-ass clowns out of Austin. And by contingent, I mean like one guy that insists that Sark was, promised the job after Saban retired, which is never true. And by the way, before Texas fans go into a psychotic frenzy today, I do think he's in a better spot at Texas. And I don't think Bama offered him the job, but I do think if he had the chance to go there, he wouldn't. You're following up a legend.
Right.
And what at Texas or even A&M, the difference between Texas and A&M to me right now is just it's the brand. So even Texas has a brand that is as big as Bama's. A&M doesn't have that. But everything else, there are a ton of boxes that both places check, including you're not succeeding Mac Brown down there in Austin. You're like 3 coaches removed from him. They're begging you to get him back to catch Mac Brown's 1 national title. At Alabama, there's you're never going to compare to Nick Saban. So I don't think they could have gotten Sark had they wanted him. I really think DeBoer, but Dabo is one. Like, look, people can say what they want about him. He's won national titles, plural, at Clemson. He has recruited at the level you have to recruit at to win in the SEC. He has beaten SEC teams regularly in the postseason, in the regular season. He's in that part of the country and recruits that part of the country. Obviously, the Alabama, he is a Crimson Tide former player. And, he's not old. The one thing people say, and I think it is important, is does he embrace the portal? Does he hate NIL? I get all that, but that's a conversation to be had behind the scenes. Like, what would you do with the portal? Or here's what we do in terms of NIL or whatever Alabama's iteration of NIL is, because I do believe they've been doing NIL forever,
right? Better
than anybody. I don't know how much they had to adjust for NIL. Kind of easier to not use NIL. But would you embrace it? Because you can't coach here if you don't. But it'll also be a lot easier for you to do that here than there. And you've got to use the portal. Tell us your true thoughts about the portal, because all we know is what we see, in interviews and in terms of why haven't you been using it as much at Clemson. You might have a real legitimate reason. If you can get past that, and I know it wouldn't be that popular in Tuscaloosa, but then like what boxes doesn't Dabo check compared to other guys? So to me, I think the 3 in order, in my opinion, right now of how I think it could go is DeBoer,
Dabo,
Norvell. Norvell, like people say, well, DeBoer's only done it 1 year. Like to me, Norvell's done it 1 year.
Yeah.
I mean, he had some couple nice years at Memphis, but I mean, I think he's as unproven a commodity as DeBoer, who took a team to the national championship game and beat, with Washington Huskies. He went in New Orleans in front of mostly Burnt Orange fans and beat Texas.
2 years in a row.
He beat them 2 years in a row, but he beat them in the massive game. Took the Washington Huskies to the national title game. How long has that been since the Pac-12 team's been there? It was Oregon in like 2013.
Yeah.
Was it 13? No, it was 14 maybe.
14.
But yeah, so I mean, how long? Almost a decade since anyone's done that. So I think, to me, if I'm an Alabama fan, DeBoer isn't like flashy, and you go, oh, what about recruiting and bringing him down in the set? I get all that.
He seems like a genuine dude too. Like, likable, creative, offensively. Right.
I'm very happy. I'm thrilled, and we can talk more about it with Mike Elko and what he's doing here right now. But my own personal list, without landing on it, because that was unattainable. I was like, to me, it was the top 2 to me were Elko and DeBoer.
Yeah.
Like from the beginning, if you said, who do you want to replace? That's realistic, and think it out and think, who can they hire? What's your list look like? And those are the 2 guys I would have said absolutely.
All right, let's hit a break here. Costa Vida time. When you go to the game tomorrow, A&M versus Kentucky, make sure you stop by and get yourself some Costa Vida, because they're going to be right inside the main entrance directly across sections 113 and 112. Their menu consists of chili lime chicken and sweet pork burritos, chili lime chicken and sweet pork quesadillas, and of course their world famous chips and queso. Go say hi to Holly and the crew out there when you do go to the game, and hang out there at Costa Vida. Get yourself some good food for that 1 o'clock game. Make it lunch. Go before. Eat your food. And if you want to go in South College Station to the restaurant, you can do it there. They're so good. They are open all week long. You can get your breakfast there. You can get your lunch there. You can get your dinner there. So whatever time you want to go, check it out. And they do have a student discount with that valid student ID. The food is phenomenal. The service is great. And you'll just love going out there. Aggie owned and operated. Holly is the one who makes it all happen. 4501 Mills Park Circle in College Station. Or, of course, inside of Reed Arena during the game against Kentucky. Go check it out. It's Costa Vida. It is TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, here in the Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy is here. Christopher, just Chris, I should say, sends in, Wikipedia is already showing Danny, I think he means Dabo, yes he does, as the Alabama coach. If you go to Dabo Sweeney's page, is currently the head football coach at Alabama University. Sweeney took over as head coach after Nick Saban retired after the 24 season. Well, that's wrong, after the 23 season, but appreciate that info right there. That is on Wikipedia out there. If you want to be a part of the conversation, you got a question for Billy, you can do that at 979-693-1150. Got a text there from Zach in Tennessee. Let's see if you want to get that to us right now. I don't think you have to read every part of it because it seems to be a longer text message there, Matthew, but if you want to give us the gist. Oh, you know what? That's old text. Yeah, never mind. And your mic's not on, so don't worry about it. All good. It just says Zach from Tennessee there. Nice jacket is all he's saying. So good times. Let's talk a little Aggie basketball. Kentucky game is tomorrow, and it is uber importance. Look, when a team averages 90 points a game, it's a scary number. A&M's offense obviously has had their issues all season long. You can say they've had their issues for the last couple of years, but what Kentucky can do offensively is very, very scary. Billy, just this game.
I didn't see that 90.
90.
I walked in.
Yeah.
There's, with the way they've been playing and the way these teams match up, there's no way A&M should win this game if you look at it. Reed Arena advantage. They've lost two. Is it two? It's not two in a row, but it's their two significant games they've played at home this year.
Yep.
They've lost last year. That never happened. This is a different basketball team. This is a struggling basketball team. If they're going to go out and win tomorrow, it's going to be because Buzz and those players have tapped into something that they really, I don't think, have tapped into all season. You know, that U of H game, they almost won it, but it was they were getting run out of the gym. They were down 24, I believe.
It's a heroic weight effort.
It was terrific, and the hustle by the team, but they were getting run out. That comeback win, that's a massive win still right now against Iowa State. You saw what they did the other day to knock U of H from the unbeaten race. They were down 20-something. Now, granted, they didn't have Henry or Boots in that game. That was a dang miracle. But outside of that game, because, again, like U of H, they were getting run out. Virginia, they weren't, I mean, they didn't really have a chance after halftime. Once they went on that run. Memphis, same deal. Memphis controlled that game. LSU, after halftime, it's crazy to think A&M led that game at the half because LSU, total domination in the second half, controlled that game. Auburn, I heard you and Logan yesterday, and you're right. They had a chance to win, but realistically, you go back and you go, it was within striking distance point-wise, but
it didn't feel like it.
But when you look back, you go, they didn't score a bucket. They didn't put the ball in the bucket for the last 10 minutes of the game. You'll never win a game like that, no matter how competitive your effort and defense can make it, or Auburn's lack of offense, too. They weren't playing well. So this team has to look inward and really figure something out in terms of playing better basketball. And I've seen the effort level. I saw it go up, I thought, against Auburn. But they also, unfortunately, when coming off that LSU game where you really are like, okay, wake-up call.
Right.
You're going to play one of the 2-3 best teams in the conference on the road at their place, and they've got it out for you because you've been beating them. So that was a tough ask. This is a tougher ask against this Kentucky team. Yep. They got to figure something else in terms of, hey, how bad are you trying to not go 0-3 or 0-4 when you have to go out to Arkansas, or 0-5 when you have to go out to an LSU team that handled you and won another SEC game this week? It's looking bleak. It's looking very bleak for a team that was in the top 10. Now, with that said, we've seen them flip a switch under Buzz, not once, not twice, probably 3 times. We've seen them play good basketball earlier this season. The win at Ohio State. Again, FAU is heroic effort from Wade. They need that tomorrow, obviously, if they're gonna compete, because Wade's coming off a really rough one against Auburn. Now I think LSU too, right? Or am I wrong?
Yeah.
LSU, a lot of
everybody shot poorly. Yeah.
So, that was the game where they were 2 for whatever from 3. He's got to really rise up this game for them to have a chance. And why wouldn't he at home against Kentucky, preseason SEC Player of the Year? Like, he's got to lead the way. Henry Coleman's got to lead the way. He's got to say, okay, I've got to just really start physically competing underneath.
Boots too.
And Boots, like, that's where it has to come, because my concern now, and you take Marble out of it, and you guys were talking about Dexter Dennis, who's in the NBA, and he's right there on the cusp. You take those two guys out of the mix, and with Solo having been out, that's a big difference from last year in terms of defense, low post scoring. Like you guys mentioned, Dex or Marble could go for 12 to 14 on any given night. Now, there might be nights where Julius scores 6 and Henry scores 12, but I mean, Marble or Dexter Dennis could easily go for 14 or 16 on any given night, and that's two guys that could do that. And Solo, what he brings in terms of defense and energy and rebounding and like getting fouled on those they're missing a lot there.
They miss easy buckets, Billy. They really miss those transition buckets that they're not getting. And when they do get them, they miss a lot.
Yeah. And to me, though, you're with those three guys. But I'm just concerned when I look past those three names we mentioned. Like, when you start getting into 4 through the rest of your roster compared to some of these teams A&M's playing, I think they're behind.
Yeah.
But Buzz's teams have always made up for that when they need to in terms of effort, hustle, intensity, understanding who they are and what it is they do. And I haven't seen as much of that lately. And I don't know if that's because of the inconsistencies in lineups or if it's just, man, this team so far just hasn't figured it out. They don't get it yet. That's weird in every sport. You just never know when it's coming. We thought A&M baseball was going to roll last year, and they were pretty awful early. Then they recovered, and they were, they were a couple hits away, a couple outs away from going to a super regional. So can A&M basketball get there? I'm not going to say no because we've seen them do it. But this is not, to me, like one of those Kennedy teams that started real slow when they had Robert Williams, they had Daniel House, they had Davis at center, they had, who's the other guy I'm thinking of, Admon Gilder. Like there was pretty tough to stop talent on that team, and they were just playing bad, and then they rallied and came around. This one, they're going to have to fight and claw for it, and it has to start. I think they need to start tomorrow. Look, Mississippi State just beat Tennessee at home. Why can't – I mean, I know why. You can give me I understand the reasons why, but why can't A&M do it to Kentucky? It's basketball. A&M almost beat U of H a few weeks ago.
Yeah.
U of H is as good as Kentucky. Like, they're different. I think this might be a tougher matchup. U of H is as good as Kentucky, though. Like, you can do it. They're going to have to dig really, really deep. They're not playing good basketball right now. They're a team that hasn't figured it out yet. They've been dealt a really tough hand in terms of absences and injuries. But that said, you just can't go on an 0-for run to start league play and negate what was a really strong non-conference resume. They've got to figure it out here quickly, and the schedule is very unforgiving to do that.
Yeah.
You want to have a chance to go win at Arkansas this week? I feel like you better not go in there with a 3-game conference losing streak. That's a lot of pressure to build up to go on the road and do that. Instead, roll in there after a massive upset win over Kentucky. I don't know how they get it done, but we've seen this team come up and surprise before when they've seemed down and out.
All right, let's hit a break here. If you guys like to travel, I love to travel. I know Billy loves to travel. You need to reach out to our friends there at the Association of Former Students because you can travel with a bunch of great Aggies. How about that? Travel with your friends, your friends here from Texas A&M as the Traveling Aggies program takes Aggies and friends on a once-in-a-lifetime adventure around the world with all the details arranged by trusted travel partners. The Association of Former Students invites you to explore possibilities at Traveling Aggies Expo 2025 Showcase, an exclusive event unveiling the 25 Traveling Aggies trips. The expo is set for Friday, January 26th, so it's coming up soon, 1:30 to 6 p.m. at the Clayton W. Williams Jr. Alumni Center. Learn about upcoming adventures as each travel partner will host short sessions highlighting their unique destinations. You can also take advantage of special trips and savings at the expo. Plus, enjoy free Messina Hoff wine tasting, door prizes, and a chance to win the grand prize of an Aggie baseball weekend getaway, which includes 2 tickets to an A&M baseball game in the association suite, a 2-night stay at A&M's Hotel and Conference Center, dinner for 2 at the Vintage House restaurant located in Messina Hoff Estate, and a Messina Hoff wine basket. To learn more and register, visit tx.ag/travel expo. Again, that is tx.ag/travel expo. It's the Association of Former Students. TexAgs Radio, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers Rollo Insurance Studio. Billy's still with us. Wesley McGriff, you posted an update on the board that I guess some Auburn media were talking about that he's having some second thoughts about going back, and you had a little bit of an update yesterday.
Yeah, just that, just confirm that he does have an offer on the table from Auburn to return. Mm-hmm. They've had some real turnover on that staff lately, most notably yesterday, Cadillac Williams, but their DC Dave Roberts left, who I understand was a real problem per what these Auburn people are saying for McGriff. Like, I don't know if they saw eye to eye. I think they also just lost other DBs coach to U of H. And their new coach down there, Willie Fritz. So it's weird how much defection Auburn's having versus the influx of recruits. Mm-hmm. What I've heard, what Auburn's done is they basically targeted like 5 guys from the state of Alabama or right in that area to go target and win head-to-heads over Bama from, and just decided they're going to go all in on the NIL front. to make sure they win those specific head-to-heads with Bama to kind of make a statement in that region. It's not a crazy idea, although you need depth. You need a quarterback to get the ball to them. But with Cam Coleman being one, you've got Brian Williams coming in here to A&M this week in the 5-star. He's another one that Auburn, I think, felt like they were going to poach from Alabama anyway before Nick Saban left. That was one the Tide were fighting to hold on to. So there's a little group of them. I don't study Auburn recruiting enough to know who those 5 or 6 guys are. But they said this is what we're going to do. They've gone all in. So, but as that's going on, there's all sorts of red flags coming out of Auburn right now. Kind of interesting that McGriff would consider going back. But that's still, as of last night when I posted that was undecided. He's signed with A&M. So I think this is a weird one to say because I like the hire.
Mm-hmm.
I do like the hire. I think he can recruit. He gives them a veteran presence back there that I think Elko was specifically looking for. But I also think if Elko has to regroup and find a replacement, I think he can do that just fine. I think the staff he just assembled proves as much.
So
and David, it's easier for the coach to stay and you to roll into this thing starting next week with the kids getting on campus. The timing of it all, I don't know how many of A&M's current players he's even met, much less didn't really recruit anybody you signed on. That was probably all Elko and Ish, and to a lesser extent because he got here a little later, even like Jay Bateman.
Yeah.
So I don't think it affects anything on that front. You would like to get somebody, if he does leave, in there quickly because you've got a lot of junior recruiting that's going to go on this month, not to mention some continued portal stuff. I don't know how much of that will be in the secondary, though. So it's a chance. I always say it's a chance to, if you lose somebody, it's a chance to upgrade. If he does go back, if he doesn't go back, I think they made a good hire with him. You'd like to keep him and just.
But did they start their looking now because he is having second thoughts, you think, or do they wait it out?
I think you probably give him a couple days.
Yeah.
It's not something that you'd allow to really drag out. And I think he's a veteran coach. I think he understands that.
Yeah.
What will be interesting is I do think he is filling and has filled a specific need, which is, again, veteran presence back there in the secondary. Elko coached safeties when he was here as the DC the last time. He's got to feel really comfortable with who's coaching those guys. Obviously, he values that position a great deal in his defense. So I think if you're trying to figure out, well, what will they do? Will they just promote from within? I think you go out and you try to find somebody similar. And again, we might not even have to talk about that. He might not go back. So we'll wait and see there.
Set a break, come back with some thoughts on Jared Mayo and the NFL games and anything else A&M related.
Big NFL weekend.
Yep. It's TexAgs.
Cold NFL weekend.
That's right. You were going to go to one of the games, right?
I'm going to go to Detroit with Seth.
Initially, though, it was the cold game.
I wanted to double dip Kansas City, Detroit, if it worked out. Kansas City, I wanted to go, but then when they were on Saturday and not Sunday, couldn't do it. Actually had some of those guys coming to the Kentucky game, and then they were going to fly out Sunday morning to KC. First of all, that weather, let me tell you something. The difference in Ford Stadium, difference in that place and Arrowhead is a pretty big one. You know what it's called? A roof.
Yeah, that helps.
I mean,
that helps.
I want to watch that game on TV and the Buffalo game just to see how these guys try to play football in those conditions.
That and more next on TexAgs. TexAgs Radio, final few minutes here on a Friday, presented by David Gardner's Jewelers, Rollo Insurance Studio. Appreciate all the guests that joined us here on the program on that Brian Foley Law Hotline. Billy, let's which NFL game should we start with? Oh, by the way, you did want to say something about Mayo taking over there at New England.
No, that's a cool hire. I bet Ty Warren's excited about that. I loved him as a player.
Yep.
Remember A&M played against them. He was a star at Tennessee when A&M played in that Cotton Bowl years and years ago. Didn't go well for the Aggies and Coach Fran, and probably, well, McGee wasn't starting yet, so I can't get him in that one. Leone probably didn't go very well for Brandon, or I don't know who else of our team was in that game, but that was a massacre. They got John Chavis in that one.
Yeah.
He just mustached them. Fat Phil Fulmer came in there and smacked A&M around. That was a tough one. That was like a 10 a.m. Cotton Bowl game on New Year's Day. What a stupid. That game's come so far in terms of moving and the time of it. But I think Mayo is a really fascinating hire. You know, am I wrong in saying he's been on the Texans staff as well, or he was considered for that job?
He was considered for that job.
Look at the success they've had with D'Amico. His problem is he's going to replace a legend, just like we're talking about Nick Saban. And one of my favorite things, by the way, is seeing some of that footage of Saban and Belichick with the Browns that started to come up lately. And you just think about, my God, how many championships, and arguably the two best, I don't even know if it's arguably the two best coaches of our lifetimes, maybe ever. And when you're talking NFL and college, it might be the best coach in each sport ever on that same Cleveland staff. It's kind of cool to watch those videos that are popping up and see those pictures. But Mayo, I went up to a Patriots game with Ty, and it was like, you know, when they do those double Monday Night Footballs.
Yeah.
And the second one was one of their D-line mates had just signed a big deal with the Raiders, Seymour. So everybody went to Mayo's house after, and Mayo used to come work Ty's football camp.
Oh, okay.
So they're like good dudes. Mayo's made a trip or two to Northgate, way back in the day. I'd like to see him hire Ty to go back to New England. I know Ty's doing well at SFA right now, but just maybe something to watch.
Sure.
See that would be interesting. And Ty's always been a hell of a technical coach. That's what got him. For a guy that was so talented, Ty was also such a student of the game. I think that was the Belichick effect when he got there to New England.
45 seconds. Texans, Browns, Cowboys, Packers. Go.
Cowboys roll over Green Bay. Packers have no chance in that game. There's no way in hell that Dallas will lose at home to Green Bay without Aaron Rodgers or Brett Favre at quarterback. And I like what Love's done this year. I like what Love's done. I don't love it, because if I loved it, he would give them a chance. Cowboys roll. Dak's playing too well. CD's unstoppable. Hopefully setting up the Cowboys-Lions rematch in round 2. Lions have, I think, a much tougher test with Matthew Stafford and a red-hot Rams team coming in there. That's going to be fun. I'm looking forward to being there.
Take the show on the road if that happens.
Yeah, maybe so. And then Texans. I think the Texans have it rolling. I think Joe Flacco and the Browns have it rolling more. I'm calling, though, for an upset. Houston Texans win a home playoff game with C.J. Stroud besting Flacco.
Thank you, Billy.
There you go.
Thank you, Matthew. Thank you, Nick. Thank you, folks at Brian Broadcasting. Couldn't you? Bye.